Let us get started. It is 7:01. I am calling the March 18th, 2025 meeting of the Altadena Town Council to order. I want to turn it over to Vice Chair Arnzen to introduce our flag salute.
Thank you, Chair. In the spirit of Women's History Month and our recent tragedies and community uniting, we've chosen a special guest to lead our Pledge of Allegiance. Debra Ray is with us. Debra has been an Altadenan over 62 years and a community advocate. As of recent, Debra, during COVID, organized for there to be reflective markers on Altadena Drive, west of Lake. During that experience, Debra chose to run for council against me, gave me a run for my money, became a friend, and is here tonight because Debra has been doing some amazing work, as many community members have. Debra's what seems like simple work is crucial to our recovery and our keeping united, in that Debra has brought together multiple neighborhood watches into one large group, and that aids the council in being able to reach out to you all and keeps you connected and figuring out how to maneuver through this difficult time. It is such an honor to welcome Debra Ray. Please unmute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. I would like to start the meeting off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. No, you don't have to stand, but if you would join me in putting your right hand over your heart and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And thank you so
Thank you,
much, Debra, for
Debra.
being here.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We are moving on to roll call. Recording Secretary, you.
Good evening, council members. When I do call your name, please respond with present or here. Connor Cipolla,
Present.
Victoria Knapp,
Present.
Nick Arnzen,
Present.
Milissa Marona,
Here.
Dorothy Wong, I
I
see
see a
her,
thumbs up from Dorothy.
John Carmody, an excused absence, yes. Darlene Green,
Present.
Isis Molden,
Present.
Jafina Hall,
Present.
Vivette Stewart Gordon,
Present.
Adam Vervolis,
Here.
Reggie Wilkins, Diane Markison,
Here.
Sylvia Vega.
Here.
That's everybody. Oh,
No.
besides John. We have a quorum.
Hey.
Pat Sutherland.
I'm here.
Thank
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
We're moving on to approving the March 18th meeting agenda. Vice Chair Arnzen.
Thank you, Chair. In a return to form, we will have public comments. They are always encouraged, and as we do in regular time, we will allow the comments, but we will not respond. If you would like a response, please make sure we have your contact info. This is how you can submit your public comment, which we will read on your behalf. We are limiting them to 2 minutes, so we'll be timing that reading. Those comments were emailed to us by noon today as a cutoff, but can also be submitted tonight. If you are watching on YouTube, please go to the YouTube chat feature. Good news is it's going to be a while before we get to public comment, so you can figure that out. And if you need assistance, please reach out and we'll try to assist you. That's it. Let me go into the agenda. The agenda was sent out, I believe, on Saturday, and I received no changes, but we did have two. We needed to add an item number 6. Item 6 will be 2 letters, one concerning the governor's supplemental age package request, and the other is concerning community center improvements. Those will be read as action items under 6.1, and 6.2. Subsequently, you can change the other items to 7, 8, and 9. That would be committees on 7, public comment on 8, census track on 9, and 10 will be adjournment. I didn't receive any, but do we have any tonight from council? Any changes to the agenda? And I don't have you all on my screen, so please speak up, unmute yourselves if you do. All right, seeing none, I move that we approve the agenda with said changes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda with the changes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody abstaining? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Before I move into my report, Isis, you have your hand up?
I was abstaining.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Can somebody please get Officer Bay the Zoom link for tonight? He just texted me.
I sent it to him. I'll send it again.
Thank you so
Aye.
much.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Good evening, council members and residents. As we convene this evening, I want to begin by acknowledging that March is Women's History Month, a time to honor the invaluable contributions of women to our community and beyond. Altadena has been profoundly shaped by remarkable women whose legacies continue to inspire us. One such woman is Octavia Butler, a visionary science fiction author who resided in Altadena. Her groundbreaking works, including the Parable series, have left an indelible mark on literature and continue to influence readers worldwide. Another notable resident was Kate Crane Gartz, a prominent social activist known for her advocacy for labor rights and social justice. Her efforts in the early 20th century contributed significantly to progressive movements in our region. We also remember Sarah Noble Ives, an esteemed author, illustrator, and historian. Her dedication to documenting Altadena's history has provided us with invaluable insight into our community's past. Before her death in 1944 at age 80, she published A History of Altadena. These women's stories are but a few examples of the profound impact women have had and continue to have on Altadena. Their legacies remind us of strength, resilience, and vision that have shaped our community. Transitioning to council matters, firstly, I want to thank everyone that is assembled here on this screen, many from the county and other partners. We know that these meetings are late sometimes and go late, and we know that you are also working very hard to the restoration and rebuilding of Altadena. So I thank you for taking the time to be with us and this community tonight. I would like to address the appointment of a parliamentarian. According to the Altadena Town Council bylaws, Article 5, Section D1, the Town Council Chair has the authority to appoint officers as necessary to fulfill the functions of the council. In line with this provision, I'm appointing Chris O'Malley, a dedicated resident and former treasurer of the council, to the position of parliamentarian. Chris's extensive experience and commitment to our community make him an excellent choice for this role. Thank you, Chris, for your service. Also, the executive committee discussed the formation of a bylaws committee, and Councilmember Cipolla agreed to chair that committee, and we appreciate your service and volunteerism to that committee. Thank you for your attention. That ends my report. Vice Chair Arnzen, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo Women's History Month. We're surrounded by great leaders on this screen and off. Especially having someone like Debra with us tonight, I think points out that these leaders rise up in a time of difficulty for their community. I have great appreciation. I'm in Iowa, barely making this meeting to celebrate my mother's 90th birthday. Another incredible woman who is nonstop, and I hope we all have as much energy at that age. But I did want to point out two things in particular. Our chair, Victoria Knapp, was honored with Assemblymember Harabedian's Woman of the Year last Monday. Additionally, Judy Matthews from Chamber was awarded Senator Perez's Woman of the Year. That means that we had two people on the floor, reminding people that Altadena is here. These strong women are leading their community and they're making a huge difference. And Altadena is packed with incredible women like them. That's my report for tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the shout out. We are moving on to approving our February 18th minutes. Councilmember Yu.
Council members, I sent out the minutes for the February 2025 meeting to you on March 14th. And I have not received any responses as to any changes. Are there any changes before I motion to approve the minutes as written? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve the February 2025 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as they were submitted. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All abstaining, raise your hand. And just know
I
I can't see the full screen, so there should be people that were not at our meeting in February that should also be abstaining. I see Pat Sutherland. Reggie, did I see your abstention?
Yeah, I believe I missed that meeting, although, everything's a blur right now. So let me abstain just in case I did.
Okay, and I see Isis is abstaining.
Received the minutes. So I'm abstaining.
Oh, great. And let me just check my second screen. Okay, I don't see anybody on screen too. Thank you so much. We are moving on to our treasurer's report. Councilmember Marona.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to give you the balance on our treasury. Last month, we recorded $3,543.17. We had $308.99 worth of expenses. Primarily, those were for the town council badges as well as new members' cards and the replacement cards, business cards for many members who lost them in the fire, which leaves us with $3,234.18. As everyone is aware, we are a volunteer organization and we get most of our money from passing this can right here. So in lieu of that can, we would like to do a virtual donation if you feel so led. Remember, this usually gets passed and many people put in $1 or $2. So if you feel like giving $1 or $2, I will put in my Zelle information, which goes directly to the council's bank account, and we're happy to receive that. Thank you very much and appreciate all of your donations.
Thank you so much, Treasurer. Corresponding Secretary's report, Councilmember Cipolla.
I just want to make you guys aware of a few things that have come across the digital desk, as Councilmember Arnzen called it, and I will now be using. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has put out a media release. The tree waiver is available online. You need to, if you sign up for the private property debris removal program and you would like to have a tree that has been deemed hazardous reevaluated by a professional arborist, you're going to need to submit this form. I'm going to copy and paste this link in the YouTube chat. The second thing that I want the community to be aware of is, I'm sure you'll hear it repeated many times tonight, the deadline to participate in the ROE, the private property debris removal program by submitting your ROE is March 31st. That is March 31st. So please, please, please go and get those in. For both of those things, you can get to them at recovery.lacounty.gov. And I'll post the individual for the debris removal as well. Third thing, is the chat working? Because I'm the only one writing in it.
Which
is weird.
On Zoom?
YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube. Let's see if someone on YouTube wouldn't mind putting a test in the
Yes.
chat.
Someone give me a hi. Hello. Anyway, that concludes my report.
I will
Thank
try
you
as well,
so
Connor.
much. Go ahead, Councilmember Arnzen.
I was just saying I'll try, Councilmember Cipolla. I'll give it a shot. I'll go on now.
Great. We are moving on to our public safety reports. It's an honor to introduce Captain Williams from the Altadena Sheriff Station.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. So I'll be brief. I just want to talk about some of the stats. Due to the decrease in population and lack of activity, our crime stats are relatively low in almost every category except one. We still have a problem or had a problem with burglaries. We were hit pretty hard in January and February as people started to move back into their places. So we'll probably have that as an increase stat throughout the rest of the year, probably. But I'm happy to say that for the month of March, we've seen a significant decrease in the burglaries. And that's thanks to the public giving us information, and the home checks have certainly was very successful also. It's unfortunate that Altadena is a target. We have made several arrests. Nearly all of them have been for people outside of Altadena. Last week, we arrested someone for burglary who came from Montana. So they're coming from all over to these easy targets, Palisades and Altadena. So I just urge the public to do what you can to keep your valuables safe. Certainly don't hesitate to put a fence around your property if you can. You can get the no trespassing signs and put them clearly marked, and have a letter on the agency on file with the station. Just come in, fill out that form, and we can explain the whole process. The home checks, like I said, were very successful. However, we have to make some adjustments to them. People are starting to move back into their properties, and that's great. We like that. But remember, once you're on that home check, you're going to stay on there until we're told to take you off. We are checking them every day, and sometimes we are running into people in their own property, and we have to take action just to make sure. It becomes very inconvenient for the owner of the property and can be embarrassing. So we urge people, as you move back in, please just email us at the same email address. That's altadenahomecheck@lasd.org, and ask to be removed. Of course, if you want to remain, you don't have to do anything if you're still on it. And we still encourage people that want to be a part of the home check program to do so. They can email at that address, altadenahomecheck@lasd.org, and just give us a good contact for us to reach you, to let you know the status of your property. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that we've rolled out at the beginning of the month. It's a community engagement survey. This has been rolled out for our division, and more than likely it's going to be rolled out department-wide pretty soon. And it's just a survey for the public to give us suggestions, some ideas. They can tell us, give us some feedback on how we're doing, so we can make adjustments as needed throughout the department. So I will try to get that link to the Altadena Town Council website, and they can certainly click on that link and fill out the survey. Also, it should be posted on our social media. Every community event that we have, we're going to try to provide that survey for people. As of right now, we can only do it online. We're trying to figure something out to where we can hand out physical copies. But for right now, it's all on that link. And that's the way we keep track of the results. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Council members, do we have any questions? See if I see any hands. I did want to express congratulations to Lieutenant Marquez on his running the LA Marathon on Sunday, and for being here, having just run the LA Marathon. And I thought I had one other question, but I think that's it. Anything else from council? Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Good to see you. moving on to CHP, Officer Keller or Boyd.
Boyd. Uh-oh.
Can I tell you, he texted me, so that's why he's on my mind.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Officer Bay.
yes, no worries, Councilmember Knapp. So, uh, good evening, everybody. This is Officer Brian Bay with the CHPA, California Highway Patrol out of Altadena area. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone weathered the storm, so to speak, with all the inclement weather that we had these last few weeks. So, I'm here to give our public safety update for the CHP. But before I do that, I just want to acknowledge and express my condolences to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department with the passing of Deputy Cuevas. Um, it's felt throughout everyone here at the office. Wearing my mourning ribbon as a reminder of that. So I just wanted to start out by saying that. So the California Highway Patrol, Altadena area, we investigated a total of 9 traffic crashes for the month of February. Out of those 9 crashes, 3 were property damage only, 2 were investigated for hit and run, and then 4 for injuries that were a direct result of the traffic crash. Unfortunately, I don't have any statistics regarding any either pedestrian or bicycle traffic crashes. That's a mistake on my behalf. I didn't dig deep into the data, so I'll have that in my next report, just to make sure that we have some continuity there. The public safety tip I want to address is going to be first aid, making sure that you have a first aid kit, whether it's a few bandages or anything that can maybe apply pressure to an actual certified first aid kit that has ACE wraps, bandages, anything that can either help yourself, a passenger, or any other motorist or bicyclist that you might encounter on the roadway. We always recommend having a full cell phone battery with a full charge, and that way you can contact 911 or EMS to have first responders respond to that scene. Just some things that I've noticed in the community. I've seen a ton of heavy dump trucks in or about the Altadena area. Obviously, they're here for a reason, but we want to make sure that we are at least letting the community know that we take the weight limits and the fact that these are very heavy moving objects very seriously, and they're in our community, and so that we just want to raise more awareness that they might need more turning radius, maybe not park next to them if they're kind of moving in and about, or if you notice someone that's driving erratically that has a load of media inside of it, please don't hesitate to call us, because there's just been an increase in these heavy oversized trucks. With that being said, going on to April, I know we're going to meet next month, but April, the second week of April, April 7th through the 14th is our National Distracted Drivers Awareness month. So CHP is going to be on an increased vigilance for anyone that's texting while driving, talking while driving, holding something. I mean, we look for everything, but we want to pay special attention to that. So definitely look out for that as well. And then I just want to reiterate that every week, actually, we have a child passenger safety inspection at our area office in our front lot. Please call to schedule a 30-minute meeting, or excuse me, a 30-minute inspection. But we do this free of charge. Anyone that needs help with maybe they're a brand new parent, or maybe they're graduating from a rear-facing car seat to a forward-facing car seat, myself or Officer Keller, we could definitely help make sure that every child is safe while driving in our community. That's as much as I have for our public safety report. Are there any questions?
Questions for Officer Bay? Officer Bay, I do have one question regarding the restoration of the 4-way signals.
Okay.
where there are existing blinking reds or where there appears to be no power. So that might be Lake and Altadena Drive.
Uh-huh.
It might be New York and Lake. Do you have any comment on when we might expect to see some of those restored or whether that's the plan?
Uh, in all honesty, I haven't received any update regarding that, nor have I received a traffic complaint from a member of the public. What I can do though is I can maybe contact Public Works to see if maybe they have an estimated timeline of when we can get at least one of those intersections energized. I don't know if it's de-energized for a specific reason or if there just isn't a capability to do that, or if maybe, I don't want to assume. So to answer your question, I haven't received anything, but I can definitely inquire.
Okay, thank you so much. I did notice that at one of those stops where there was no blinking red, that someone had crashed into the stop sign that was on the,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So,
Okay. And this
okay.
was this month or last month or
I would say this was last week.
last week? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a
Thank you.
note of that.
Thank you.
I'll
Appreciate
follow
it.
up. I am getting a bit old, but I'm getting confused with sometimes it's just a four-way, the little wooden thing. Sometimes it's flashing. Sometimes it's a regular light. And if you're a bit distracted like I was last week, you can wind up getting in some trouble. And if it was all consistent, if it were all flashing, or if there were all the little, whatever you call the little sawhorses, but it's a mixture. It seems like it's random. And random is not good for people getting old, at least. And
That
so,
and also all
yeah,
the rain, yeah,
yeah.
all of the rain that we've been having too. So, I mean, I'll just reiterate that if you ever see any kind of intersection that's either a flashing red light, we'll just treat that as if it was just a regular stop sign being there. And then if any intersection that's not energized, but it does have a limit line, that white line that before entering the intersection, it's presumed that that's going to be a stop, a four-way stop as well. So, in the month of January when we had everything going on and I was coming into the area, I had to remind people like, hey, you have to stop. You can't just fly through this intersection. And so I know Public Works does a good job of responding and maybe putting out what they call those A-frames, those barricades with the stop. But with the increased wind and everything else, sometimes those do get blown over. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments for Officer Bay or CHP? Seeing none. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. You stay safe out there. And I would just say that with Colonel Avichal here, he will make sure that their master contractor makes their subcontractors aware of the speed limit, and especially when they're traveling downhill with a heavy load, and to mind those intersections and treat all intersections with stop signs or with blinking lights as four-way stops.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. LA County Fire, I saw Assistant Chief Sprengel. There he is. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening. I think you have Maria also on.
Yeah, I am here.
Good to see you, Maria.
Hi.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to give the report, and then if there's anything the Chief Sprengel would like to add afterwards, then he will do that. Or if you have questions that go beyond me to him, he is here for that as well. For February, just like the sheriffs, our activity is in Altadena is much lower than it normally is because there are still a lot of people not in the community. So for the month of February, we had a total of 162 responses. 3 of them were fires. 2 of those were trash fires, and 1 was a pole fire on New York and Roosevelt. So no monetary damages there, but those were the 3 fires. We had 107 medical calls with 83 people transported. on the on the medical, there were we responded to 6 traffic collisions, and I am showing that one of them was versus a bicyclist, and that was on the 28th on Fair Oaks Avenue, the 2100 block of Fair Oaks Avenue. That is the extent of the report. The only other thing I wanted to bring up was, as I mentioned last month, CAL FIRE was developing the new maps for the local responsibility area, the LRA maps. And they are set to be released on Monday, March 24th. So I'm going to put in the chat here the website where those maps will be available. When you click on that link and you go to that website, you'll have to scroll down a little bit. The first map that you're going to see is going to be the SRA map, which is the state responsibility area. So go a little bit further down below that to the section on local responsibility area. And if you go there now, it's just going to tell you about the rollout and the dates of the rollouts and everything. So you will not be able to see Altadena, a map for Altadena until Monday when it is published. And then when you are on that map, you will be able to enter your address. So it'll go straight to your address and you'll be able to see whether or not you are in a fire zone. We do expect that the fire zone will grow from the previous map. But the fire zones are also going to be put into 3 different categories. There's going to be the very high severity zone, the high severity, and the moderate. So there will be 3 zones now, as opposed to they used to put everything into very high. Now they're putting it into 3 different zones. So you'll be able to see if any of those zones apply to you, and if they do, which one you're in. So again, I will put that website in the chat. And then maybe just go there and bookmark it so that you can go back on Monday and go in and actually see the LRA map. And just remember, you're looking for the LRA map, not the SRA. That is all I have, unless there's any questions, or Chief Sprengel would like to add anything.
So I will. Thank you, Maria, and good evening, Altadena. I know you guys will be getting some fire restoration and rebuild updates from the Colonel, but I will touch on another subject, and that is that rain season that Officer Bay was talking about. So just want to remind the community, as we work through this rainy season, the concern for mud and debris flow is always there, especially with the bare hillside that we have adjacent to the community. So as we work through these storms and as we go through the next couple months, just know that fire department will continue to staff appropriately. That's with additional engine companies, with heavy equipment, with Swiftwater staffing, hand crews, etc., so that we're ready for those events. We prepare very well going into those events and all the way through those events, and then we assure that we're making it through the backside of those events if there are issues. We've had quite a few decent storms that are concerning for sure. But I just want you to know that we will continue to work arm in arm with Office of Emergency Management, with Public Works, with the Sheriff's Department, and with Fire to make sure that we work ourselves through these storms during the rainy season. And with that, we'll open up for questions if there are any questions for Fire Department.
Assistant Chief Sprengel, I see one hand. My question to you is related to the mud removal. So I was on Altadena Drive heading west toward to Noble from Allen, and where we had mud flow that's still around the embankments there. Is that a Public Works endeavor to remove that or scoop it up at some point?
So it gets tricky in different areas of Altadena. And the area that you are speaking to is most likely Public Works, but I will reach to Public Works, and I have plenty of contacts there to work to get it that area mitigated if there's still areas of concern there. Depending on where you are, you have City of Pasadena that's looped in on some areas. You've got different Public Works operations working, And some of that stuff we can handle on the side with fire department and what have you. So usually it's a conversation that we need to have with multiple people to get that debris moved and moved out. But we will certainly jump on that. Just give me an address, and I'll jump on. I'll side talk with you, and we'll get that handled.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Molden.
Hi, I have a question for Maria. So if I were to go on to the CAL FIRE map and see the update on Monday, when a resident goes and enters their address and it tells them which fire severity zone they're in, what does that mean to the resident? Like, what information can they gather from that?
Maria, still there? Okay, so what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to tell what fire hazard zone they're in, and just know, as the state law says now, any single family dwelling that sits within the very high fire hazard zone is subject to a annual brush inspection. That is the big deal for us. Again, it won't happen this year. It would start next year. And we will deal with that next year as those numbers increase, is what we're anticipating. But for now, in the very high fire hazard zones, per state law, we're required to do an annual brush inspection for those residents. So that is what it would mean for now.
And
but we'll keep you updated. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief, for jumping in on there, because I started answering until I realized I was still on mute. So thank you for jumping in on that. Yeah, that's it. So it's anybody who is new to the fire zone. If you weren't in it before and you are, it's going to show that you are in it now. It is going to trigger brush inspections for you, but not this year. So you have a pass for this year. Even though you're going into the fire zone this year, you will not be subject to brush inspections until next year.
Thank you. Don't forget to drop the link in the chat, and then we will cross-share it on YouTube. I see Councilmember Stewart Gordon.
I thank you. And is there a cost for these inspections that the resident have to incur? And also, too, can you explain what the low and moderate, what would that look like for the resident?
There's
in regards to inspection.
There's no low. There's moderate, high, and very high. Those are the three different fire zones.
Okay, can you explain what that looks like in regards to inspection, and is there a fee?
There is a fee, and the fee is $151 a year, and that is added to your property tax bill. So you're not going to get any separate invoice or anything. You're just going to get your inspection, and then it'll just appear on your property tax bill. And when it appears on your property tax bill, it is 1 year later. So if you get inspected for the first time next year in 2026, that will be on your property tax bill in 2027. So the fee is it's basically 1 year behind. Right now, we do not know the extent of which properties are going to get inspected. What I can tell you right now is that any property that's in the high and very high is going to be subject to inspection. There's almost no question about that. Those will be subject to inspection. What is technically, the state of California says any property in any fire zone needs to get inspected. Historically, in the state responsibility areas, those are already divided into the 3 separate zones. Historically, we have not been inspecting any properties, and the moderate fire zone is very, very small. It's a very, very small area. But historically, we have not been inspecting in the moderate zone, just the high and the very high. Technically, we're supposed to be inspecting in all 3 zones. There is some pressure from the state that we inspect all 3 zones. So, and because of what just happened in Palisades and Eaton, it could very well change that we now inspect all 3 zones. So there is no change in inspection fee between the zones. There's no that you either get an inspection or you don't, and that's the fee that you pay. But right now, I'm going to operate on the assumption that all of the fire zones are going to be inspected.
One more question. So would that be an automatic population, a fee once your property is placed in one of the 3 fire zone? Is that automatic population to be for the $151 to be assessed on your taxes?
Yeah, you will get a notice early in the year. For those of you who don't already, some of you may already get that annual defensible space inspection notice. So we typically send those notices out in February, and then the inspections occur in, I believe it's May. Is it May, Chief? It's May 1st, I believe, is when the inspections begin. If you receive a notice in the mail in February, then your property is subject to inspection. You are on what's called our declared list, which means you're in the fire zone. So you'll receive notice in February, you'll get inspected in May, and then you'll get charged on your property tax bill. But again, it's going to be 1 year behind.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilkins.
2 questions. What happens if you fail? And are trees considered brush? Thanks.
So trees just need to be limbed up, and they need to be pruned, and they need to be maintained, and they need to be, kept. Like you can't have branches hanging over onto the roof. You'll be asked to cut those back. So there's different things. When the inspection occurs, if there is something wrong, if the firefighters see that there is something wrong and you're not currently in compliance with the defensible space requirements, they will leave a notice on your door, and they will tell you in great detail why and what is wrong and what you need to do to bring your property into compliance. And you will be given 30 days to get that done, and they come back 30 days later to re-inspect. And then if you have done all the work and you've made the corrections, then you will pass. For those who don't have anything left on their door, or there is nothing wrong, you're completely in compliance, you will receive a letter in the mail from the fire department stating that your property has been inspected, the date of the inspection, and that you are in compliance. And the reason that we do it that way now is because of AB 38, I believe, which is the real estate bill that was passed. So folks who live in a fire zone, when they sell their home, they need to have a defensible space inspection as part of escrow to show that they've passed that inspection. So if you sell your home, once you get a letter after you've received our inspection, that letter is good for 6 months. So if you were to sell your house within 6 months, that letter will serve as your AB 38 inspection for escrow purposes. If you sell a property outside of that 6-month window, then through our website, you would just request a defensible space inspection for real estate, and there is no charge for that.
Great. So if you do fail it, I didn't hear a response to that. What happens if you fail the inspection?
If you fail the inspection, you're given 30 days to make corrections. If you do not make those corrections within 30 days, sometimes it depends. If it seems like you've been working towards it, you're making a good faith effort, you've done some work, but not all. Firefighters work with people as much as they can. So if they were to say, what, do you need a couple more weeks? We can come back in a couple more weeks, and that's fine. For those who make no effort whatsoever to make the corrections and just completely ignore us, then the property gets turned over to the brush clearance unit. They may or may not make one final attempt to get you to clean up your property. If the property is not cleaned up, they will turn it over to County Ag Weed Abatement, and then they will schedule a contractor. They will hire a contractor to come out and do the work on your behalf. and you will be penalized for that. And the cost of that work, and both the penalty and the cost of that work, will appear on your property tax bill.
Okay. The reason I ask is a lot of people are going to be unhappy if they have to kill a tree because it overhangs the roof. And I'm just putting that out there. This is beautiful Altadena, so that's going to be an issue. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilman. We're going to move on in the interest of time. We have several presenters that are waiting. If you have additional questions, please get them to Maria. She will drop the link to the map in the chat and we will cross-post it. Thank you so much, Maria, for that information. Thank you, Assistant Chief Sprengel.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome. And we're going to move on to our community reports. First on the list, we've got our water companies, and we've got Nina Jazmadarian speaking from Foothill Municipal Water District to give us an update.
Good evening, everyone. And I'm going to give a brief update on water quality, and then if you have any questions, I can answer them. The do not drink orders have been completely lifted for Rubio and Lincoln Avenue Water Company and Rubio Cannon Land and Water Association. Preparations are being made to begin water quality testing at the Lincoln and Las Flores interconnection. Once completed, Lincoln will begin delivering water to the Las Flores Lake Avenue pressure zone. This process may take up to 2 weeks to complete. Las Flores will then need to go through the same flushing, holding, and sampling that Rubio and Lincoln had to do for that pressure zone. Las Flores will be able to remove the do not drink order once the samples meet all state and federal water quality standards. Las Flores customers in the Poppy Field zone can use their tap water for drinking and other normal uses. That area is not in the do not drink orders at all. And that is the report I have.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being here. Do we have questions? I see Councilmember Arnzen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Maria. Can you clarify what that zone is within Las Flores? Not everyone listening may be familiar with the Poppy Zone.
You know what? I'm going to have to ask, let's see if anybody's online from, I don't have it in front of me right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you can get that back to me,
Yeah.
if anybody's available, I'll ask Gary now too on text.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
This is David Mosher.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay. The Poppy, I'm a director on Las Flores board. The Poppy zone is the area south of Altadena Drive that is served by Las Flores. That includes areas like Boulder Lane, Saloma, parts of Holliston, down south near New York, Sonoma and Marona, and then south of New York down to for about 2 blocks between Hill and Mar Vista.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions regarding our water districts or services? Check page 2. Thank you also for being here, Natalie. I see you here on page 2. Okay, I see no other hands. Thank you so much for that, Nina. Appreciate it. Moving on to our library, Director Winslow.
Good evening. I'm sharing. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Just got to get up here and start. All right, good to see everyone. Thank you for having me. Missed you guys. So I'll be brief because I know you have a lot on the agenda still. So I am happy to share that the main library did reopen on Tuesday, March 4th after a lot of remediation. I do want to just share that we remediated the roof, we cleaned the HVAC system, scrubbed the air, and then before we finally reopened, we did air quality testing and surface testing. All of that can be found on the website. So if people have questions, either refer them to me or to the website on our public documents and policies page. I'm also very pleased to share that our Bob Lucas Library suffered very minimal damage, just a little bit of insulation in the roof. They were able to resume construction on January 21st. So very fortunate that both library buildings are still in excellent shape. I did want to put out there that we have our monthly Board of Trustees meeting coming up on Monday, March 24th, which is this coming Monday at 5 o'clock. We do live stream that on YouTube as well. And one of the things that did come out of the Eaton Fire response is we put together an ad hoc crisis and recovery committee. And that's largely to focus on backfill of anticipated lost property tax revenue. Two of the trustees and I are spending a lot of time meeting with state legislators to make sure that we can restore the budget and continue to offer library services and programming to the community. Happy to answer any questions you might have about that separately. I did want to share that we started a connected wellness campaign. Shortly after the fire, we went into a partnership between the Altadena Library Foundation and LA County Library Foundation to fundraise to purchase Wi-Fi hotspots and other family essentials for families that lost their homes in the fires. I am really proud to share that we've had 2 giveaway events already at Grocery Outlet on February 8th and March 15th. We've been able to purchase 200 hotspots with fundraised money that are loaded with 14 months of service to be handed out to Altadena residents who lost their homes. We're continuing to build a wait list. We currently have over 200 people on that list. If you know others, please refer them to the website. And we're going to continue to fundraise. So if you know people that are looking for a great cause to donate, this specifically will go to purchase hotspots for our residents, and they can donate at altadenalibraryfoundation.org. The Bob Lucas building project continues. Right now, it's currently 82% complete, which is really exciting. If you drive by, you can continue to see progress. These are just a couple photos that I threw in. Renovation is on track to be completed and to grand reopen the library in June of 2025. So exciting news. More information to come as I have it. Our main library building project continues to move forward as well. We're currently in the environmental impact report process to be able to get our conditional use permit, hoping to start renovation in late 2025. And I'm very excited to share that we are in partnership with LA County Parks and Rec to have an alternate site at Loma Alta Park. They're going to be opening Loma Alta Park, which I'm sure Sam or whoever's after me will talk about next, but we're going to have an alternate site up there. So more information to come, and hopefully in coordination with the grand opening of the park. So we're really excited to know that we're going to have a second site on the west side while the main library is being renovated. More information can be found on the website on our next chapter page about the building projects. Very excited to share that we've partnered with Altadena Arts Magnet PTA, WME, as well as the LeVar Burton Entertainment to have our Welcome Back to the Altadena Libraries event this coming Saturday, where author and actor LeVar Burton will be reading and sharing his book with the Altadena children, The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm. We'll also have Clifford the Big Red Dog, and we're just really going to turn it into a really fun, light, joyous carnival kind of feel. Face painting, arts and crafts, lots of food, supporting local vendors. His production company gave us a very large donation, so we're being able to pay a lot of our local businesses to be able to be at the event, which we're really excited about. So hopefully we'll see you there. That will run from 10 to 1. The reading by him will be at 11 a.m. and we'll have a couple of elected officials speaking around 10:30. So hopefully we'll see you there. We've also partnered with Foothill, the Foothill Catalog, as well as Altadena Heritage, Altadena Historical Society, Bungalow Haven Landmark District, and Pasadena Heritage to offer a speaker series starting on Friday, March 28th. So a week from Friday at 7 p.m. This time we'll be featuring speaker Michelle Zach. And we're hoping to expand this partnership into having somewhat of like an Ask an Architect series so that people that are trying to design and come back into Altadena will have an opportunity to speak to these local architects that are building a catalog of designs. I'm sure there'll be a future presenter at a town council meeting, but again, that is happening on March 28th. Please visit the website and sign up to attend. We're also going to have a program on Sunday, March 30th, featuring world-renowned Tibetan abbot and author. Can't pronounce his name. You can see it on the screen. We're excited to have him. That'll be taking place on the main library main floor from 3 to 5 on, like I said, March 30th. The presentation is going to be on exploring the potential and power of our minds when facing challenging times, which I think many of us can relate to at this time. In addition to that, we're going to have a really fun program that we're bringing back from last year, which is Animals from Around the World. That's coming Saturday, April 5th at the main library. Registration is required for ages 3 to 12. The pictures you see on the slide are 2 of the animals that were there last year. So who knows what they're going to bring this time, but we're happy to partner with the Wildlife Learning and Conservation Center. And Second Saturday is back. I am happy to share that we had Second Saturday in March. We had the band Suave. Almost 200 people showed up. People were very hungry to come back to the main library for a concert. So get it on your calendar. We'll be having bands on April 12th as well as May 10th. We did move the time. They're starting at 6:30 now. So hopefully we'll see you there. And that's what I've got for tonight. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Anyone with a question for the library? Go ahead, Councilmember Arnzen.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Nikki. Before I forget,
Hi.
this year, Pride is happening the second Saturday in June, and I was kicking myself last year that we didn't coordinate with you to maybe do some Pride-themed music going on. Obviously, we won't be at the Senior Center, but I'll be talking to you about the use of the library at the beginning of the day and how that shapes. But I just wanted to put it out there. It'd be great to connect.
For sure. Just put it on my list. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
And then Nikki, I had a question regarding the hotspots. If a resident was gifted a hotspot and then has moved into long-term housing and no longer needs it and still has it and has the box, would you like it back? Or
We
is
would
that
love
okay?
it back.
You'd love it
Yes, we could definitely repurpose it. Like I said, we have a long list of people that are waiting for them.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
that.
That's a great suggestion. Anyone who can pass it along, that'd be great.
All right. Any other questions? I'm looking on my page too. Okay, it was so good to see you. It's so good to have sort of a return to normal presentation.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Yay.
Thank you so much for the time.
And then I saw our Parks Regional Director, Sam Estrada here. Sam, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Victoria. So in my presentation this evening, I'll be discussing the Loma Alta reopening project. So just gonna get into touch with that. And so Loma Alta has been decided on that we will be reopening the park by our department. So a lot of people have been asking why, a lot of people have been asking questions. So Loma Alta Park, as you know, is a community-centered and community-driven park. So we want to make sure that we're supporting the Altadena families and the residents who have moved back into Altadena, as well as the residents that want to stay connected to the beloved community of Altadena. So Loma Alta will be the first park to reopen after the Eden fires, and we're looking to provide a variety of community services after we reopen. So it'll be, as Nikki mentioned, we'll be having a satellite library at Loma Alta. In addition, we will also be having the Altadena Senior Center, which was burned down in the Eaton fire. So they will be providing congregate meals in addition to services for the seniors, and that will be offered by the Aging and Disability. We're also looking to offer space for after-school care, serving approximately 100 youth ages 5 to 12 years old. As we know, several child care education centers were destroyed in the fire. And so we're looking to provide that service for those in the area and those that would like to take that as an opportunity for their children. And we're also looking to provide 25 teen jobs for Altadena residents ages 14 to 25 through our Youth at Work program. And we'll be reopening our Teen Hour Spot program, which has been operating during this entire time. However, they have been in a satellite location working in and around Altadena, Pasadena, as well as in La Crescenta during this time. And then something new that was mentioned at our March 5th announcement of the reopening was that we'll be having a new Altadena chat neighborhood to allow residents of Altadena to come back to Loma Alta and reconnect. It'll be placed inside of Loma Alta, and they'll be having the opportunity to reconnect with their neighbors and friends that they may not be able to see on a regular basis or as often as they would like. So it'll be kind of like a mini town square or something to the effect of like a backyard or on your front porch. So we would like to also provide trauma recovery programming for our children, seniors, and families, as well as providing a space for displaced community programming. We're looking to connect with the Altadena Rotary, so we'll be working with Mark Mariscal and his crew, and that's also providing a lot more. And so why Loma Alta? And the reason why is that Loma Alta did receive the least amount of damage of our parks. And Loma Alta, as you know, is located in West Altadena, and it was most impacted by the community, by the fire. So these services are critical to reestablish the recovery of the Altadena community. And we've been working together with Altadena Council along with the Rotary and other county entities. And we want to make sure that safety is a priority. And so our department is working around the clock to go above and beyond to prepare Loma Alta for what we have coming up in April, which will be our volunteer days. So Loma Alta has been fully evaluated for its reopening. We've been doing debris cleanup at the playground, which will be removed by the Army Corps of Engineers. Water has been evaluated along with the removal of ash and as well as the interior cleaning of our facilities. So all this will be taking place as well as outdoor vacuuming of our facility. And as I mentioned, the volunteer days, which we have coming up in April, which will be starting on Saturday, April 5th. And we are happy to announce that today we met our capacity. So we have well over 500 volunteers throughout each of our Saturdays to help us with the recovery efforts with volunteer groups that are going to be helping us through this effort. So we have a great opportunity to take this on during Earth Day to volunteer and support the projects available at Loma Alta Park. And LA County will be having, as I mentioned, these volunteer days every Saturday, starting on the 5th, going through April 12th, 19th, and 26th. And then we're also proud to get the announcement from the Rotary that they have pledged to assist with the lunch for the volunteer days. And we've also been partnering with local artists. We have Tree People, LA Conservation Corps, along with other groups that will be supporting us in this effort. We have hundreds of calls since the fire to help and volunteer. So we're looking to take this on. We have everything scheduled. We meet regularly with our department to make sure that we have everything organized. As our department does usually host a series of Earth Day volunteer days throughout the county. And this year, obviously, with in light of this situation, we want to make sure that we focus it on Loma Alta Park. In just regards to some of our programming, in addition to the services provided, we'll be also providing our after school, our Tiny Tots, and our teen program. So, and along with our sports program. So we're looking to have all of this ready to go, and our opening day will be on Saturday, May 17th. And so we're looking forward to that date and having the community be part of that reopening with us, so that way we can begin this rebuilding effort. So with that, that concludes my information regarding the reopening. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Council members, do you have any questions for Sam? And Sam, I would like to kick off the questions with a question not related to Loma Alta Park specifically, but there was a question regarding the construction fencing at Charles White Park and the reason for it and how long the community might expect the park not to be open. So I know Trevor's on the call here too, if Trevor wants to speak to that or give any information about the necessity for the fencing and why it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So yeah, Charles White, the decision was made to fence in Charles White Park for a few reasons. First and foremost, the restroom facility that burned down contained the irrigation controls for the park. So at this point, we don't have any means to water the grass and maintain the park. So eventually, the turf's going to die. So that was one reason. The other reason is because Loma Alta has been prioritized, and we're pouring all of our efforts into getting that facility open and doing our safety testing, soil testing. We haven't had the opportunity to soil test Charles White. So at this point, the decision was made to fence it in. But as many of you may be aware, there was a project scheduled at that park, which included a community building, walking paths, and other amenities. So once we get through the Loma Alta opening, Charles White becomes our next priority to look at that project again. But we also had to add in the structures that were lost, which is the restroom and the brand new playground that was installed as well. So that's going to increase the cost of the project. So we're working through those details.
Thank you so much for that information. Any other question for our friends at Parks? Go ahead, Councilmember Molden.
Yeah, I wanted to, so you mentioned that the project will be, I guess, postponed, even though I think the groundbreaking was supposed to happen in December for the first phase of Charles White Park. So then you're saying once Loma Alta's opening is complete, then we're going to then transition to Charles White Park's phase 1 of groundbreaking, or are you going to repair the existing infrastructure first?
Yeah, so the project as we had it laid out before the fires has been modified, one because of the structures that were lost in the fire. And so there's going to be some shifting of where the community building was, and then the reinstallation, obviously, of the power and the irrigation controls is going to be priority. So our planning and development section is working on the details of that. So it's going to be both. It's going to be the project that we had slated, as well as the structures that were lost. So we'll provide a timeline for that as soon as possible. But like I said, at this point, all of the efforts are going into, because Loma Alta was the least damaged and it's the one we can get open to the community soonest, that's where the efforts are at this point.
Will the budget then be reallocated to the reconstruction, or will the budget for that specific project stay with that project?
It will stay with that project, and they're seeking funding for the additional structures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see Councilmember Cipolla.
Hey, Trevor, I know the answer because I was at a meeting with you earlier, but some residents are wondering about the soil testing prior to volunteer days.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Great question. So we did get word today that the majority of the soil testing at Loma Alta Park was completed. They'll finish tomorrow. So all of those safety checks will be done prior to us bringing any volunteers into the facility or open any indoor spaces.
And I did just want to comment that those results are made public. I would imagine they'll be on your website, but I believe that there's also and maybe Public Works can chime in, but I know that there's another website where we're putting all of the results that are coming in from the testing that's done throughout town, and those might be made available there as well. I will correct myself if I'm wrong. Any other questions? Chris, I saw you come on, Chris.
Yeah, apologies, Victoria. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure where that's posted, if it's our site or public health or through the recovery site.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Mullen.
One more question about Loma Alta. Will there be air quality monitors on at the park that people can check as well?
No, we use the AQI for the air quality. There's no monitors that are going to be installed directly at the facility.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for being here, Trevor and Sam. It's good to see you both. And thank you for all of the work that Parks is doing to attend to the parks in Altadena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are moving on to our special presentations. I know that I saw Colonel Abichal here. I know that I saw Chris Shepard from Public Works, and I did want to acknowledge that Dr. Davis from Public Health is here as well as we go into our conversation regarding the Phase 2 debris staging at the golf course. Colonel Abichal, I will turn it over to you.
Okay,
I think we had an issue last time too with the mic. Hold on a second. Councilmember Cipolla's
Okay.
got an idea. Go ahead.
No, that was a, oh my gosh, what's happening? Are you good, Colonel?
I think we need to
Yeah,
mute
I'm
everyone.
good.
Okay, there
I
you go.
do
You're
have,
better now.
Yep, so I do have, this is interesting. We got two cameras in here. So,
So,
Colonel,
actually, the sound is coming from Matthew Long, it looks like, but you're still muted.
yep, that's fine. That's fine. I could just look at that camera.
Okay.
The only difference here is if we could just share those slides, if you don't mind, that'd be helpful. We just have a couple products that we want to display as we start talking about the Altadena golf course. But while those are coming up, I did want to just give a brief update on where we stand right now in terms of the Eaton fire and how many crews we have and our debris progress so far. So as of today, we have 84 crews conducting debris removal in Eaton. That's a huge ramp up from where we were just 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we were at 34 crews. So we are continuing to accelerate the pace at which we're doing doing debris removal. We think this will continue to grow over the next couple weeks. We should hit 100 crews probably within the next 2 to 4 weeks as well. So again, we are continuing to ramp up operations. I did want to reiterate what was said earlier regarding rights of entry. Please do submit your rights of entry if you haven't already done so by the 31st of March. That'll be key for us being able to plan our future work and instrumental to getting this recovery going as efficiently as possible. So right on the screen right now, you should be able to see just an overview shot of the, we call it the Temporary Debris Storage and Reduction Site. It's the acronym is TDSR. Again, this is the Altadena Golf Course. And I wanted to just start off by saying, the Corps of Engineers is here to protect human health and the environment while facilitating Altadena swift recovery. This facility will allow us to do so in a much more quick and efficient manner, but I just want to be clear that we are not going to compromise public safety at the expense of efficiency. So this facility will be operated 100% with the best management practices, as well as constant monitoring to ensure that we are not endangering the public as we continue to ramp up operations. So just some details about the site itself. This site will accept asbestos-free concrete, metal, and vegetative debris. It will also be accepting the remaining household hazardous materials. This is what was not taken as we finish off the phase one deferred properties. We are seeing some limited household hazardous material, and those will continue to be staged there as well. Just like the EPA had their site, we will continue to do that as well. Fire ash debris will not come to this site. I want to say that again, fire ash debris will not come to this site. It will continue to be separated on site as we do the debris removal. It'll be loaded into those vinyl wrap trucks, and then they will be double wrapped and then gone to those permitted landfills as we've been doing it so far. So again, concrete, scrap metal, vegetative debris, and then limited amounts of household hazardous materials as we encounter them. So on the map in front of you, or on the screen, I'll just walk you through a little bit of what you're seeing, and then just the general flow of how the operations will take place. So up top there, you see Mendocino Street, and then you can see, hopefully you can see, yep, so we're moving the mouse as we pass through. So this will be the TDSR entrance. So essentially, as you would normally go into the parking lot, Those trucks will come in, they'll hit a de-tarping station, and then they will come in through essentially like a side access route that we've created, and then go directly to the truck scales where they'll be weighed and inspected to make sure that they're carrying exactly what they should be. Again, no fire ash debris. We will check that as well on that site. From there, they'll move, depending on what they're carrying, they'll go to either the metal portion where they will download what they have, and it will go to a metal baler that will essentially compress that that scrap metal, get it into a more compact shape, and then that can be loaded on a separate truck that will end up going to the landfill. If they have concrete, it will be loaded into that area that's labeled concrete reduction. So it'll be downloaded from their trucks. It'll be essentially taken into our concrete reducing equipment, where it'll be recycled and then essentially transformed into about 1 inch to 1.5 inch gravel. And then you can see where the stockpile will be. There'll be a stockpile of that material, which will get loaded into larger trucks, which will then go to the recycling centers. And then right now, where the EPA has been doing a lot of their operations, that's where we will do our vegetative and green waste operations in that portion over there. Items that will not be accepted, again, no ash, no ash or debris, fire ash debris will not come in. Asbestos contaminated material. So as a part of debris cleanup, we do asbestos testing on every single parcel. And then we get those results back within about 24 to 48 hours. And then if there is any traces of asbestos that are on that property, we go through an extensive abatement process, which is done by hand in accordance with California regulations. And then that asbestos material is taken directly to the appropriate site where it can be disposed of. So again, and all of that concrete has already been tested for asbestos, and it will not come if it does test positive for asbestos. Anything else, municipal solid waste, tires, electric waste, those things will not come here. So again, it's just those materials that can be recycled or and put back into the supply chain. Okay. So if we could go to the next slide again. So just some best practices. I also did want to talk a little bit about trucks. We talked previously about that, about our dump trucks on site. And if you do see any poor behavior from any of the trucks, if you can, all of our trucks have an ECC placard on the side of them. If you can, take a picture of the truck, try and get a license plate, and we can track that down. All of our trucks have GPS tracking on it. We monitor speeds. And so we can definitely take swift action, and we have done so already. Whenever we do find if a truck is not acting appropriately. Also, I didn't talk about it, but there will be flaggers as well that are guiding traffic into and out of that Altadena site, the golf course site. So that'll minimize the amount of traffic buildup coming to and from. So we will have active traffic control on site. Okay, so again, now I want to talk a little bit more about what we're doing to keep the public safe, because I know that this is a new for everybody, and I'm a parent, right? So I've got a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old at home, and I think about it every day to make sure that, if I were living in that community, would I feel safe? And so I am very sensitive to the parents that have approached me that are located near the golf course, and we're doing everything in our power to make sure that this operation is run safely for the public. So I'm going to hit just a few of those controls that we have in place. So first one here is going to be air quality. So we have on that map, we actually have 3 air quality monitors already on site. Even though we haven't started doing any recycling operations, they are pre-positioned in kind of a triangle around the entire site itself. And they are monitoring in real time particulates 2.5 microns and 10 microns in size. And that data is, again, being monitored in real time. The crews that will be operating will also have personal ear monitors. This is to ensure that they are not being exposed themselves. And as those monitors do go off, if they do go off, then we'll be able to, again, stop operations, implement any sort of controls immediately. Again, that's to protect not just our crew, but also the public as well. In terms of dust control, we will have water trucks, misting cannons, all sorts of different things. Our conveyors are equipped to be able to have water as well. So as the material is being reduced, we can mist it the entire duration, so that will minimize the amount of dust and particulate matter that it goes up into the air. We'll have quality control staff, safety managers on site, and their primary focus will be monitoring the dust to make sure that we are in compliance with all regulations, all safety regulations. And then finally, we talk about noise and noise abatement. So all our combustion engines will have proper mufflers to reduce the amount of noise. We are operating only during daylight hours. So again, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I think, depending on, we say daylight hours, so that may actually extend to 7 p.m. But again, just daylight hours. And noise abatement is something that we can also adjust as we get feedback from the community on how the noise is to all participants that are living in the area. So with that, I'll pause to see if there are any questions or concerns at this time.
I'm going to ask that you stop sharing the screen. That way I can see everybody. And I see Councilmember Vuverlis. You've got a question. And then next is Councilmember Cipolla.
Hi, thank you for all that. I have a question for the residents around the golf course for noise pollution. How loud is it going to be? What are the days that it's going to be going? What are the hours it's going to be going? And outside of health, but are people going to be hearing noise all the time? So just curious about that.
Yep. So I can, John, I could start answering that question. So, the equipment, depending on how far away that particular resident is, when we talk about the noise of the equipment, they will definitely hear it. Probably the one that they will hear the most is going to be the backup alarms. That tends to be the one that travels the longest. In terms of duration, we are going to operate 7 days a week, and the hours are just during daylight hours. Apart from that, most of the other equipment will kind of be no more than conversational type of noise in the background, but it shouldn't carry too significantly.
I'll just for an example, there are people who can hear, like, believe it or not, like a golf ball being hit from the golf course. So it's possible that they could be hearing the backing up beeping 7 days a week from sun up to sundown. For how long?
It's going to be for the duration of our operation here. So again, we are trying to do this as quickly as possible, but our commitment has been January 2026, and again, we are trying to go as fast as we can. This will help us go faster, but it will be for that duration.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Cipolla.
So I suppose that's the answer to my first question, Colonel. January 26th is the end date for the operation, as far as you know?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then also, just can you speak to So the trucks that come off of sites of residential sites are double wrapped. Are the trucks that come off of the golf course double wrapped?
Yep. So I think it's important to understand that there's 4 types of debris that are separated on each site. And so that is done as the debris removal is taking place. It is only the trucks that have fire ash debris that are double wrapped, and those are the ones they will still continue to go directly to the landfills. Only the concrete, the steel, and the vegetative debris will come to this site, and they are tarped. But they are not double wrapped in that regard because they're not carrying that fire ash debris, which is the hazardous material.
Councilmember Vega.
Thank you, Colonel. Can you please speak to the outreach you'll be doing to the community? I know there's been a lot of talk and concern from the neighbors thinking that there's going to be fire ash and toxins at the golf course. So can you speak to the outreach you'll be doing to the community?
So after this meeting, we're going to set up probably a series of other meetings with the residents. We're not sure exactly the format of those discussions. It might be smaller groups, but again, for the next probably the remainder of this week, we will actively do that. We also are going to have some handouts and flyers and some written products that will hopefully put out the facts and dispel any rumors about what's actually going to be on site.
And can we put your slides up on our site? Is that possible? Just so that we have that information out.
I don't see why not. It seems, I know we have to go back through FEMA just to make sure, but it shouldn't, once we do that, we can make a releasable copy for you all.
Thank you.
I think what would be helpful would probably be the fact sheet and the graphic, which is much more public friendly. So we'll provide that, which will have all the same information, but much more friendly for the layman.
Yep. So we're developing a fact sheet as well as a graphic that's a lot more digestible in terms of just getting the right information out.
Thank you. Councilmember Malden.
I believe my question is more directed towards Public Works. With the debris removal, do you guys foresee any uptick in street cleaning, particularly around the golf course, but also on properties where debris removal has occurred, and there may be deaths in the street? Will you guys come through and do street sweeping after the debris removal is done and upping the cycle around the golf course?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you on that at the moment, but I will look into that and what plans may be for increased frequency on street sweeping. So thank you for that question.
So we can answer that question here because we do have street cleaners as well. So we will definitely increase the amount of street cleaning that happens on that stretch. Again, that's part of what we've been doing at debris removal sites. So we'll definitely do that in that area.
All right. Any other questions on this topic before we move on? We appreciate you being here. We know it's getting late into the evening, and so we appreciate that. I know it's long days for you and for Public Works, and I do appreciate that Dr. Davis is here. Thank you, sir, for being here in case there were any public health related questions that came up. And I think now we can move on. So thank you very much. We are going to move on to our Altadena PUSD campus updates. And I see Hilda was here and Superintendent Blanco is here. And I see that Dr. Blanco is with Jennifer Hawley. So I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So what I plan to do, if we have time, is just go through quickly a presentation that we did present to the U.S. Department of Education when they visited last week at Altadena Elementary School.
Great. Please go ahead.
Practicing my Zoom skills here.
We all got a little rusty.
Okay. So, and now there's a little icon up here that I need to hit on present.
And we can see it, but yeah, once you do that, it'll take it into full presentation mode, or you could just go down the slides this way too.
You're okay with this? Can everybody
Sure.
see okay? Okay. Okay, so our goal from the beginning was really to make sure that we could reopen in a safe and healthy environment, restore our community connection, and rebuild and rise, and guarantee continuity of learning. So this slide shows where our families live and our employees live that were affected by the fire. You probably have seen similar diagrams before. And I'm going to move this over a little so I can read off my paper, sorry. Because I'm seeing myself on part of the screen. So out of our approximately 3,000 employees, we had about 1,400 of our employees were evacuated, and about 300 were in an inaccessible zone, and 172 were in the immediate burn zone. Out of our 14,000 students, about little over 10,000 were evacuated. About 2,400, close to 2,500 were in the inaccessible zone, and then about 1,400 in the immediate burn zone. So our district was really, impacted by this fire because many of our family members and students live in the Altadena area and other areas that were affected. So we did open our schools in phases, and I know you're familiar with the phases. We were able to get back into school within 17 school days, I think 23 days from when the fire first occurred. We had about 1,500 people out working on the grounds by day 3 or 4. We cleaned all of the schools at the same time, but some schools were more impacted than others, and they had some were larger than others, so they took longer for us to be able to get them reopened, tested, cleaned. We did do a lot of sanitization, air testing, wiping down everything, and making sure that the HVAC systems were completely safe before we turned them on. And I talked about this a little bit. We do have our PUSD, fire relief and safety. We try to put up as much information for our families as possible so they can find out information about some of the things that were explained earlier this evening in regards to what's happening in the town and the 2 cities, how they can get help, and exactly what's going on in the schools. So this is a slide that shows the impacted schools and where they went. Elliott Arts Magnet is in the McKinley campus. Altadena Arts Magnet is on the Ellendale campus. And then we did move our early childhood program from Cleveland to Webster so we could make space for charter schools to co-locate with us. And then the Noise campus was destroyed in Altadena. Avison Charter School of Leaders was there. They went to Cleveland and Washington campuses. And then Odyssey Charter was at the Edison and Audubon campus. And they temporarily have a location that is a private location, but would like to eventually return to the Audubon campus. And then our Rosebud Academy went from the Loma Alta and is co-locating with Don Benito right now. So this is just a snapshot district-wide of the impact. I think I saw the little icon now. Oops. And as you can see, we have close to 1,000 children. We learn more every day about children and families, and 120 staff that have been reported self-reported from our principals that have lost their homes. So we have many more that have been impacted and are still evacuated, but these are confirmed home losses. This slide is a little bit more about what was happening in attendance in the early days, the reasons why people weren't coming to work. But what's really important to note is that our employees, unless they had to move like out of the state or out of the region, have shown up every day, regardless of what their own home and family situation is. And we're just really proud of, their commitment to the students in the community. And we went into a tentative agreement with our labor partners right away about, them coming back to work. There really was no conflicts that happened in these meetings. The Teamsters, UTP, and CSEA were all in agreement, in supporting our students and families. One of the struggles we had was short-term and long-term housing. As many community members are suffering from this right now, we were able to go into an agreement with Airbnb relief through the California Department of Education. They started out giving our employees a week of Airbnb relief, and then within a week they called us back and said, you can have 2 weeks, and then they moved it up even to a month because there were other areas that were taking advantage of the Airbnb relief fund, and that was very helpful. Risk management team meets weekly with our insurance carriers, third-party administrators, forensic accountants. Dr. Cannell is in charge of that area and, meets with teams of 20 people just about every other day to, determine what our losses are. So this is some of our enrollment. There's been a lot of questions about whether, we're losing students. So we've had about 352 students that disenrolled, and then we've had about 200 and I believe it's 206 students that that have enrolled that are new students. So we haven't seen a great decline in enrollment. Many of the private schools in the area were also damaged, and our charter schools took a little bit longer to come back. So we have quite a few new families that have joined PUSD. And whether or not they'll stay as their schools open is still, for us to find out. We know that people are driving from really far away to make sure that their children are with teachers they know and their friends. Hopefully they will be able to secure long-term housing close to the district and stay with us. But at this time, we just don't know what's going to happen. We had a lot of mental health staff on board coming and helping us. And I spoke to Dr. Reynoso today, and we are going to get additional supports from Sacramento and some of the other surrounding areas, because we had a lot of support in the beginning, and then the people that were helping us had their own jobs, so they had to go back to their jobs, and our principals and teachers have said the students and staff still really need help in this area. So we'll be getting some additional supports coming in again. And then our attendance in some places actually was higher than it was pre-fire. It's fluctuating as some of our schools, especially due to immigration scares, have dropped a little bit. But in terms of fire having an impact on attendance, it has not impacted it the way that you would think it would, because people have a need to be at school and have some sense of normalcy in their life and, be with, again, like I said, people that they know. So technology and instructional materials, I think it was day 2, we said this is going to be a big problem for Chromebooks. So we ordered 5,000 new Chromebooks. we ordered new materials for the schools, the 5 schools that were damaged in terms of furniture and instructional materials. And we quickly replaced things that were missing. We're still in the process of, getting new things because both Altadena and Elliott were art schools. So they, received all their basic things right away, but there's a lot of specialty materials that we're still ordering for them. And communications, we really ramped up our communications. We felt that it would be a best practice to give 2 to 3 messages a day in the beginning because our families really needed to know what was going on. We used social media and we had a 300% increase in engagement. And there on here is both of our websites that you could go to find out more information. And this is some of our current needs that we presented to the U.S. Department of Education. We had to go through a process of layoffs, which was very challenging and difficult for us, but they were from, declining enrollment situation prior to the fire. We did get a hold harmless from the state of California and the governor's office supporting us in a trailer bill, but that's for the future. So our enrollment, at whatever we had at the beginning of this year will be held harmless for this year through a process called J13, and next year through the hold harmless agreement that's part of the governor's budget. So these layoffs were a result of a structural deficit we had in our budget prior to the fire. Social emotional learning and behavioral supports is something that we emphasized with the U.S. Department of Education, and then academic recovery supports, attendance. We asked them if, they can help us have the hold harmless for more than these 2 years because we know it's going to take many years to rebuild. And then any types of grants that they could give us in, facilities or reconstruction would be appreciated. They told us about a grant, Project Serve, that we'll be applying for, and hoping that we will be able to get the maximum amount of money to address some of the things on this list. So again, we're really proud that we were able to reopen in a very short time. And we are definitely in the restorative and rebuilding, process right now for our schools and our, people that are in the schools with us in our community. So that's all I have. So thank you. And if I could answer any questions.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Council members, if you have any questions, please put your hand up. Superintendent Blanco, my first question is really around specifically Altadena Arts Magnet and whether it is still and what is the date that they're intending to return to campus? And secondly, just to confirm that as it relates to Elliott, they will not be returning until the 2026-2027 school year.
So I think on Elliott, there's no date. It's really like too soon to tell because we're still assessing the building, and it's a very complex situation because the structure isn't completely gone in some places. So we have to, work with the insurance company and then the cleaning of it. So we do have a commitment from the board to rebuild Elliott, and Ms. Hawley, our president, did author a resolution, and I was very much supported by the board to rebuild Elliott, but there is not a timeline at this time. In terms of Altadena, as I mentioned, we held a meeting there. The school is cleaned and environmentally tested. The outside of it and inside of our campus is great, but there are a lot of structures that still need to be addressed around it. And I think that's where some of the concerns are coming from our community and families. But in looking at the right of return forms on the website, it seems like there are a lot of people that have turned them in, and a lot of it is in process. So we definitely want our school to be open as soon as it is safe to do so. There was a new health advisory that came out from the LA County Public of Health in terms of things that we can do for schools that are reopened. And we did go through that today with our leadership team. And we are very much in line with all of the requirements or advisories to regularly inspect and clean the outdoor areas and playgrounds, maintaining the air filtration systems with efficiency MERV 13 or higher, that we have, since COVID, have kept our air filtration system in every classroom, and it is a higher quality than what is, being advised here. And then monitoring the wind and air conditions and adjusting outdoor activities. That's something that we practice on a regular basis because we live in smog, right? And we have lots of children that might have asthma or other situations going on. So we do send out a notice daily on the air quality, and the mobile units that have been going around have reported that, the air quality is safe. We're going to be in a study also with Caltech, and they want to place some air filters in different places that are even, a higher quality and monitoring of what's happening throughout the community. And then lastly, they said to please work closely with remediation experts. We have an environmental hygienist that's part of the 20 people insurance team that I mentioned. And, the conducting of soil and other environmental testing is also being proposed by other agencies that we are cooperating with. So we'll have more information on that. So it's not, precise answer on what you're asking me. Some of our families have requested to place a resolution on the board agenda for the upcoming board meeting that they did present that in open session, and the resolution asks not to return until all debris is cleaned up in the entire community, and to, have some things that are maybe a little bit out of the control of the board with routes to school and things like that. So that will be a discussion though at the next board meeting. And, I do want to ensure the community that I would, no one on our team or on the governance team would want to put children in any kind of harm. All of us have children or have a relative with children, and we definitely want to make sure that it's a safe environment before somebody would return to school.
Okay, I want to acknowledge that I see multiple hands, and I will get to you in the order in which are on my screen. Two things before that. The first thing that came in through the chat is your presentation. Is it available on your website, or is it available to the public?
Oh yeah, we can send it to you. We've had, different presentations. This is probably the one that we've updated, most recently, but we have shared some of the information in the board meetings on fire status update, but I'll have Hilda send it to you.
Okay, great. And then Colonel Abichal, I think you are still here. I'm checking to see. The question is, and maybe not. Hold on before I even ask the question. Did I lose him? I literally thought I just saw him. Okay, I'm going to hold that question until I see if he's actually here. I will move on. Go ahead, Councilmember Vovalise.
Hi, so I have a list of questions from a handful of parents at AAM, at Altadena Arts Magnet. So excuse me while I just I'm going to go through them. I'll try and do it as quickly as I can. I think the first question I think is if safety for our children is the #1 concern, what is the rush to get back to AAM if they have Allendale as a campus?
I don't think there is necessarily a rush. We do have a 5-year bond plan, and when we presented to the board the status on it, we talked about them returning because that space was the swing space, the other swing space burned down. There's also not the same opportunity for all of the art spaces that there is at the Altadena Arts Magnet. Allendale is a smaller campus, and we are bringing in some additional portables to accommodate, the number of students, because we did have many of the teachers doubling up, and of course everybody wanted to get back to school, but that's not the best learning environment. So we're going to have more of an update on when the portables can be there, and I think that will help the situation as well.
Okay, and I think some of the parents just wonder if spending our energy to update Allendale because we're there as opposed to moving the kids again would be better served. And then I have another question about the 250-yard advisory that has been put out. I know it's an advisory and it's not it's not mandatory or anything. Is that something you guys are going to be following?
So that the advisory that I just read to you is the advisories for schools and educational settings. So the 250 yard advisory was developed for residents and homeowners. Now, I do fully understand that people that have their children at school for 6 hours a day would ask what is the difference, but the Health Department of Pasadena, LA County, and the California Health Department, I believe, got together and created this advisory for schools, which does not discuss the 250 yards.
That's weird. All right. Another question we have is about topsoil. I know you guys did a test and you did irrigation, but people are still asking if people are removing topsoil from houses. What is I know the sand, but what is the process for the topsoil other than irrigation?
Well, that's what's been recommended by our environmental hygienist at this time to be the best method for pushing down any debris. One of the cautions of soil testing is that we live in LA and it is a polluted area. And so we don't really have baseline on what was in the soil prior to, this event happening. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to talk about what is a result of the fire versus what was already in the soil. But we are, as I said, working with other experts, even though that was not something that we were going to do, because working with our environmental hygienist, they just cautioned us against not having the baseline.
Okay. There are lots of families, as you know, that are displaced, and some of them are far away. I know a couple of them that are have enrolled their children in other schools waiting for the opportunity to move back. If they are no longer enrolled in AAM but plan to go back to AAM, how long will their spot be held? And is there a wait list that is behind them that they could get pushed out?
We'll do everything that we can to return children to their schools. I don't even want to say school of residence because we have open enrollment system, but we went through this during COVID. And if they let the enrollment office know of their intent to return, we're going to do our best to keep track of them and make sure that they can return to be with the school they want to be at.
Okay. And then the last one, sorry if this one seems inflammatory. I am asking though, they asked, how much is your insurance dictating all of your decisions?
I think in terms of cleanup, our insurance played a big role, right? They recommended environmental hygienists and people that we'd never really worked with before in the school system. In terms of decisions on
in like loss of income from student body, from paying for staff that is displaced, lots of just the costs that are that come with something like this that one needs to accrue because obviously it's a disaster and there's a lot of problems, and typically insurance would be the people that would cover that cost. When that happens, insurance will also sort of push to get things open quicker, to get people back in home faster, because they don't want to have to continue covering a cost that they feel is unnecessary. So I think the question is like, people might feel like, because a lot of people are feeling that way in their homes. They're feeling like they're being forced back into their homes, or they're being forced back into situations they don't feel comfortable with because of insurance. And so I think people are wondering if that is happening at your level as well, if PUSD is being pressured by insurance companies by saying you need to go back to school by this time because we're not going to cover you after a certain period of time, which residents have also been told in their homes.
Yeah, I think it's a little different for us. I certainly have heard that too about the home insurances. But I think for the schools, because we have alternative spaces, right? And because if we have to bring portables to McKinley because of fire, we haven't had any problems with insurance, and we're bringing additional portables to Allendale because of fire. So they're paying for those types of things. We have to really keep track very closely of all of our expenses in terms of which ones are related to the fire versus our regular expenses. And that's why we do have forensic accountants on both sides. But I think it's a little bit different. Like if the question is the insurance company telling us we have to go back to Altadena Arts Magnet? No, they don't have any jurisdiction over that.
Okay, moving on, Councilmember Molden.
I had a question about the mental health services. Have you heard anything about the the LA County Department of Public Health offering services to our schools, that they'd come into the school and I guess supplement if we need additional support?
I know that Dr. Reynoso is working with all of the agencies and support systems that are out there. So she probably has been in contact with them, and she was going to work on an update. Like I said in the beginning, we had so many people come and then they had to go back to their jobs, but we have reached out, and we are going to have another telehealth system that has been offered to us. We received a grant from the LA County Office of Education in terms of having our social workers be able to bill for services that hasn't been allowable for us before. So that money we'll be able to use to increase services. So I'm not particularly sure on that one, but I can ask her.
Thank you.
Get back to you.
Councilmember Cipolla.
Dr. Blanco, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time, for staying late. We've received an immense amount of public comment on this issue. Specifically, my understanding is that Odyssey rejected the campus they were offered because it was too filthy for them to even consider for students. Is that true? My second question is, are you willing to commit to publicly release the testing information from all campuses?
We have released the testing information. It is posted on our website for all campuses. In terms of Odyssey, their campus was ready to go with new furniture on January 30th, like the rest of our campuses. They would have had less space, but we are still in the process of bringing in portables to the campus. One of the I think harder things for our charters was understanding that we were all having to squish a little. I don't know if that's really an appropriate word, but have to put more classes together for a short time until we could get the portables here. That's been the same as McKinley. It's been the same for Altadena Arts. I think they went from 22 to 12 classrooms. Elliott lost many classrooms, and we're sharing part of our ed center that we're in right now as part of their campus, and then they're sharing with McKinley. So I didn't have anything about cleanliness because it was clean and tested at the same time as the rest of ours. Now, whether or not they wanted to be that close to a burn zone, I think was more of the issue with some of their community.
I need to ask something. Are we talking about Avison or Odyssey?
Odyssey. Odyssey rejected the campus they were offered by PUSD because it was so filthy. And generally, I mean, the concerns are not around space. I'm purely passing on residents' concerns to my. they're saying that the campuses are not adequately remediated. That's what they're saying. So I pass it on to you.
Yeah, I don't think the Odyssey director or principal would agree with that, because they made a choice, I think, based on feedback that they received from their constituents in their school community, but they still want, that campus to be offered to them for the future.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Councilmember.
But it
Cipolla.
is clean. I can guarantee you it's clean. I have pictures of it being clean.
Councilmember Vega.
In your slideshow, you had mentioned that you needed additional funding for mental health for students, and I just wanted to find out how that was coming along. Just wanted to find out because I think our kids continue to need support.
Sure. So we did apply, as I mentioned, for a grant for LA County Office of Ed that we received, where we can bill for our social work services, which will generate funding to be able to have more social workers. We have counselors, psychologists, social workers, and we, of course, could always use more more counselors, and we had Hazel Health, which was a telehealth, and we're adding an additional telehealth that we found out about from the LA County Office of Ed as well, that will be easier for parents and community to access. So we're looking forward to starting that. We definitely, have a lot of social emotional curriculum from our COVID days, really wanting, to make sure that our students are developing their academic skills as well as their social emotional skills. So that's been a big emphasis that we've focused on with the Western Justice Association in learning community circles, as well as restorative practices. We saw, an uprising in behaviors when children returned from COVID because they were used to being home, not having as many, restrictions as when you're at school, right? When you're at home, you can eat whenever you want. You can kind of walk around whenever you want. So a lot of the students had missed matriculation years, like they were in elementary school, they came back, all of a sudden they're in junior high. And a lot of, differences, kids that weren't in preschool, all of a sudden were in kindergarten and first grade. So we put a lot of support in place as a result of that. And I think it's really paying off. When the first lady first partner, governor's wife, came to visit, we took her to Allendale to see Altadena Arts Magnet, and she was just really impressed by what she saw going on in the classrooms. There were community circles, and it wasn't staged. These were just what our teachers do. A lot of our teachers have taken yoga and have, through different professional development opportunities we had, and they were practicing yoga with the students in the classroom, and the students talked about how that was helping them. So I think, our teachers do a really good job with it, but they have said they would like more training because COVID was different, right? And the fire is like a crisis and a loss, and they want to be able to be sure that they're equipped to help the students.
Thank you for that. Thank you, council members, for your thoughtful and probative questions. And thank you, Dr. Blanco, for taking them all. I appreciate it. There will be additional questions that came in as part of public comment. We generally don't respond to public comment, but would like to route those to someone. So as it relates to the district, who should we route the questions to that we could then get answers back to the resident that asked?
I think just send them to Hilda. We do try to, put out frequently asked questions around the questions that we receive from all community members, to have that be available. I know that there is, a lot of concern about returning to the area. I, really am glad that I'm seeing so much of it being cleaned up so quickly. And I really, have a lot of hope for by the time we are required to return back to school next year, that all the areas around our school will be cleaned up, our schools, because that's something that the Army Corps has made a commitment, and the governor too is making sure that areas around schools are cleaned very quickly. And I think that all of our campuses, that our sites were cleaned within a 2-week period. And, from my understanding, I'm not living there with all of you, but the process really is designed so that, dust and debris isn't flying all around. It's a wet process. And what we saw in Hastings Ranch proved to be true with what they explained to us, how the process works. So if any children are around areas that are being cleaned and our schools are, not within the 250 yards, but anywhere around the area, we make sure that that the students stay inside when that's happening, just as extra precaution.
And I did want to relay information from Colonel Avichal and from the Department of Public Works as it relates to debris removal at residences around our schools. Our schools are considered sensitive uses, as are our parks. And so they are working with their master contractor, where we have a right of entry form that has been approved, that we are trying to aggregate those and then prioritize those for debris removal around our schools. And the same would be true of Loma Alta Park. So to answer that question, that is something that's happening now and is in a discussion, and they are working on the messaging around that so people understand. So hopefully that will help people feel more confident about returning to their schools the sooner we can get that debris in those areas cleaned up. Reggie, I'm going to hold that. Oh, you got a thumbs up. Thanks, Reggie. Okay, so we appreciate you being here. I'm sorry that it's so late. I know it's made for a long day for a lot of folks, so we appreciate you being here, and we'll get those questions to Hilda and see if there's any, you might already have FAQs on some of them, so it might be real easy to get those answers back to them. And then if not, we can certainly circulate those back to them once we get a response. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I
was just asking President Holly if she wanted to say anything.
No, it's just, I look at the right of entry map on LA Recovers, and I'm always looking around Altadena Arts, and all of these forms have been turned in. So that process is happening around Altadena Arts. It's a little bit different around LA.
Yeah, a little bit different. Yes, and Elliott also has businesses that are destroyed that are going to have to be contended with, which is another aspect of this that we're working on too. So yeah, definitely. And it's definitely something that, as we've been messaging this as a council, to encourage residents in neighborhoods, certainly around our schools, to encourage their neighbors to opt in so that we can get those cleared as quickly as possible. So congratulations.
And our employees who have had their properties cleaned from Army Corps has said they've done a wonderful job. That they, were super happy with the work that they did. So I hope that people, feel trusting, and that they will, sign their forms, and that your town can be cleaned up as quickly as possible so we could start rebuilding.
Yep, definitely. Thank you so much for that. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to make a comment about the letters that are going to come before this council for a vote. We are asked to do a number of things. Sometimes we're asked to provide community feedback, and sometimes we're asked to vote as a council. Those two things can be mutually exclusive. Sometimes they can coalesce. In this case, we've been asked to provide letters of support in addition to the county supervisor and other agencies, both to Congress through the governor's office as it relates to the governor's request for additional federal funding for the cleanup and safety of LA coastal wildfires. So one of the letters is around that. The second letter is to Congresswoman Chu's office in support of the request from LA County for additional funds to for improvements at the community center. There are some issues at the community center that are beyond the budget of LA County, having to do in some part with the destruction of the senior center and the hope that down the road, in addition to doing some programming at Loma Alta Park for our seniors, we'll be able to offer perhaps the space in the community center main room and or an additional room that they are trying to ready for public use. And so the funds are being requested of Judy Chu's office. So we will circulate those via email with a survey that will allow you to vote or abstain or however you would like to weigh in. And that will be forthcoming after this meeting. Both are time sensitive. There is a deadline to try, there's a deadline with Congress in particular to trying to get this additional fire aid approved in this current cycle. So that's the sensitivity around that. Okay, so look for that to come. Moving on to our committee reports, I want to give Chair Green the opportunity to brief us on renters protection and recovery and the work you've been doing in that space.
Hi, everybody. So, well, we've actually gotten off to a great start. We're scheduling our first meeting sometime this first week in April. This meeting will be an important opportunity to discuss our objectives and strategies for supporting the renters going forward. Pleased to report that we've gotten great feedback from some of the residents. Actually, Councilmember Ice has referred a few people to us already that have expressed their overjoys at the AltadenaRecovery.com website and the FAQs that we have on there for renters. And so we are going to continue with that effort and making sure we keep that particular FAQ populated before we get a chance to meet. And lastly, I want to bring to your attention that we were able to have a really good conversation with the newly formed Altadena Tenants Union headed by Katie Clark, and we will be working in collaboration with her to make sure that our needs are, for the residents are actually ongoing and communication, strengthen our efforts to support the renters in the community. So things are off to a pretty good start.
That's great to hear. Will you be having meetings, or how do you intend?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I forgot I did. So Katie, were you guys moved by me and Katie? I'm sorry, Chair Knapp.
I almost could not unmute myself. However you want to answer the question, whether it's with Katie or whether it's on an ongoing basis as you sort of navigate through this process.
Yeah, so I had such an overwhelming response from some of the residents, and Katie and I meet every Wednesday already. We've already started our meetings, and she will be joining me on some of those meetings, and she's going to have me on some of hers so that we can make sure that we're not duplicating our efforts. So we will be having a meeting once a month for the committee going forward on Wednesdays. We're shooting for Wednesdays.
Great.
So I want to see her website, AltadenaTenantsUnion.org. They can join, and then they can look at our website for the recovery, AltadenaRecovery.com for our updated FAQs. We'll be updating those very frequently.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you for providing your report. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make a correction. It's recoveryaltadena.org, just to be sure they get to the right website.
So just to reiterate, Recovery Altadena, and I think it's .com. I think it's recoveryaltadena.com.
Yeah, hers is AltadenaTenantsUnion.org.
That's hers. Yep, you're right. Okay. And then item 7.2, the Altadena Eaton Fire Recovery Fund Advisory Committee. Council members Cipolla and Marona.
Council members, community. So I'm Connor. I'm co-chairing along with Milissa Marona. I'm going to try and make these as brief as possible, but I want to get you guys an update on the Altadena Eden Fire Relief Fund and the advisory committee thereof. So as you guys know, there's a myriad of organizations that are doing great work in this recovery process, and there's fundraising for each of those that's ongoing. The ATC Executive Committee recognized early on that direct relief to residents was a gap between institutional funding and donors, and outside donors, and the ground reality for Altadenans. The opportunity to stand in that gap came to us by way of an introduction to Tim Cadigan who's an Altadena resident and also happens to be the CEO of GoFundMe. So on March 18th, 2025, that's this year, the year of our Lord, the AEFRF, terrible acronym, was launched as a joint venture of the Altadena Town Council and GoFundMe.org. There's a press release out. You can take a look at it. GoFundMe.org is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization. That's the status by which they're taking in donations. They launched in 2017. Their mission is to mobilize and distribute donations for communities impacted by crises, natural disasters, and inequities. And since their inception, GoFundMe.org has worked with partners and organizations to raise over $175 million into more than 225 different funds, delivering 35,000 grants to individuals with urgent needs. GoFundMe.org, not the ATC, will be holding the funds for the entirety of the fund's life. The fund will be managed by an advisory committee of trusted town leaders, which Councilmember Marona will be telling you about momentarily, who will oversee the fund's structure, holdings, and eventual distribution to ensure an equitable and as transparent as possible allocation of resources across the community. So we opened an application period for that advisory committee. That application window was from February 18th to the 26th. During that time, 66 Altadenans applied, all amazingly qualified. And I want to say thank you to anyone who applied and your willingness to serve in this capacity. If we could have a 66-member committee, we would, but it's just not possible. Milissa and I are confident that the pool was very accurate, as a very accurate representation of Altadena by any metric you use. And I can assure you, and you will find out soon, that the final committee is equally as representative. Councilmember Marona?
Thank you. Our advisory committee is, as Connor said, myself and him as co-chairs, and Autumn Lauderdale Mora, Charles Thomas Jr., Maricela Viramontes, Rebecca Cobb, and Scarlett Osterling. And we have an alternate in Paige Evans. They, as Connor mentioned, represent both East and West Altadena and have a multicultural division across the board of people who are there. The Altadena or the advisory committee will meet shortly next week on March the 25th, 2025. And that will be our first meeting in which all of the advisory board will get together. We will meet and set up the criteria by which the grants will be distributed at that time. No decisions have been made thus far as to what is going to happen. And so we are looking forward to our first meeting and coming back to ensure that we have a transparent distribution. And all of this will be listed on the GoFundMe.org site. And as we give distributions, those will also be listed there as well. Thank you.
If you guys want to get to that site, you can go to altadenafirefund.org. I want to quickly shout out and give some immense thank you and recognition to three specific donors. The Chinese American Federation, who we met with and gave a tour, donated generously to the tune of $20,000 to this fund that will be would be given in direct relief to Altadenans. Also, the Pasadena Community Foundation gave a $125,000 donation to this fund. It blows my mind, the generosity of our local organizations. I also just want to shout out our very first donor, who was the CEO of GoFundMe, Tim Cadigan, and say thank you to him as well. So that concludes our report.
Thank you both, and thank you both for your stewardship of this. I did want to go back to, and we're going to put a pin in this for just a second. Councilwoman Green, I did not ask if there were questions to your presentation, so I wanted to give council who had any questions regarding the renters protection and recovery to ask a question now. I saw that council member Molden's hand was up, but I wasn't sure if it was up for that or for something else.
It was up for the congressional letters. You said that we were going to receive a document to vote, but are we going to have an opportunity to add edits to the actual letter itself before we vote on it?
No, we're going to just vote. It's a yes or no or abstain. It's not something that we're looking for community involvement in. It's either as a council person on this council, it's something that you feel that you would be supportive of, or not. But in the interest of time, we're a week late in getting the Congress letter out. And although the time constraint is its own issue, we're trying to edit and re-edit a document that is as straightforward as that is probably not the best use of our time as this council. Okay, were there questions for Council Member Green? No. And any other questions for our second presenters on the fund? Okay, are we down to one screen? We're down to one screen. I can see everybody. Okay. So now I'm going to turn this over. Am I turning this over to Council Member Arnzen or Council Member Cipolla for general public comment? You would normally do it, Nick, so I'm just trying to confirm how we're doing it tonight.
Correspondence Secretary, Council Member Cipolla will take it from here. I'll remind the public that we typically do not respond to public comment. We're trying to get back to business as normal. So, Councilmember Cipolla, as the chair already mentioned, we will reach out and forward on the questions that were asked in advance. And if people mentioned a question in the chat and attached their contact info, we'll try to do the same.
Thank you, Vice Chair Arnzen. During general public comment, any person may address the town council by way of email in this case. The Altadena Town Council welcomes public participation and input. To make public comment, you would have had to send us an email at publiccomment@altadenatowncouncil.org. Comments are limited to no more than 2 minutes. I'm going to ask the council to keep me on track as I read in these comments. If I go over 2 minutes, please cut me off. The council does not respond to public comment, as Vice Chair Arnzen said during the meetings. If a response is requested, your contact information is included, and we will pass it on to the appropriate party, and your council member will be responding to those. Councilmember Gordon, Stuart Gordon, did you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Victoria. It had stated about any questions regarding the advisory, and I just want to put it on record that their entire council was not privy to the whole process and was not entirely in agreement with it. So I just want to put it on the record that I was not privy to everything and not in agreement with some of the aspects of it.
On the record. Thank you. All right, so bear with me, everyone. I've tried to group these as best as possible. Loma Alta Park, from Nina Elig, my apologies, Carlotta Martin, and Yolanda Dorsey. They're the officers of Sench Neighborhood Watch Association. We, the representatives of Sench Neighborhood Watch Association, understand and sympathize with the homeowners who have lost or suffered severe damage to their homes due to the wildfires in Altadena. With all due respect, we stand in firm agreement to have the donation pledge from the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation remain designated for the repairs and further development of the Loma Alta Park and Recreation Center. When an organization dedicates and specifies funds where they wish it to be applied, we feel it should be honored. Otherwise, it could be considered as disrespectful to the donor's wishes. From Denise Brooks. I believe that the Dodgers donation was earmarked for Loma Alta Park because they are an athletic organization. To suggest that the monies be used in any other way would be an insult to the organization. While we're not without empathy for many people who have lost their homes and are still suffering, it must be noted that the park serves the entire community. Their service extends to children through seniors. The physical and social outlets that can be benefited from the park can only be an asset to offset depression and other ailments associated with loneliness, isolation, and a lack of exercise. There are children who lost their schools and the park. It is my hope that the Altadena community continue to rally together to navigate this crisis and graciously accept donations to be utilized where they are intended. From Veronica Jones. I'm writing to express my strong support for the reopening of Loma Alta Park. In Altadena, following the devastating wildfires, the park's reopening, much like the recent opening of our local library, is an essential step in the rebuilding and healing process for our community. The reopening of the Altadena Library brought a familiar feeling of community. It allowed the community to take a breath and think there is still reason to hope. The second Saturday event was full of Altadenans wanting a place to be together, and our public places are used to gather and make memories with the community. I commend the efforts of LA County for partnering with the private organizations and for the progress made so far in the rebuilding process. Things are moving forward at a steady and efficient pace. There seems to be a seriousness and urgency to getting people on the road to recovery. This needs to continue throughout this process, and be focused on all facets of rebuilding our community, including our parks and community gardens. The generous contributions from organizations like the Clippers and the Los Angeles Dodgers made this reopening possible. The gifts offered by these organizations must not be allowed to go away because of lack of a timely use of the funding. The generosity of those outside of Altadena has been amazing. We must seek more opportunities like these. The reopening of Loma Alta Park is vital for the quality of life of Altadena residents, especially as we work to rebuild not only our homes, but also our sense of community. The summer concert series will be a time of community coming together, healing, and hopefulness. The summer camp will be helpful to parents that still have to work. It is just as important that we quickly move to rebuild our community meeting places as our homes. Altadena is a community that values the outside as much as the inside. And while we acknowledge that the park will reopen with the unfortunate backdrop of burned homes, I firmly believe that welcoming visitors to Loma Alta Park is a symbol of hope and resilience for our community. We do not want Altadena to fade from public consciousness like Katrina or other towns that have faced disasters. Instead, we want to remain at the forefront of people's thoughts, prayers, and ongoing support across the nation and state. CNN has already moved on. Mark Mariscal. Dear Altadena Town Council members and community members, I want to share the importance of our LA County Parks Department does all it can to help restore our access to programming at Loma Alta Park for the summer. The information shared by County Parks Department and Supervisor Barger after the press conference 2 weeks ago really helped and helps bring joy to many families. This allows those displaced to return on Fridays and Saturdays between Memorial Day and Labor Day and gather in a comfortable zone. I support the opening of Loma Alta Park. Second category here is going to be questions, broadly defined.
Councilmember Cipolla.
Yes, ma'am.
I did receive the public comment that got bounced back to the sender who resubmitted it. So it is on this topic of Loma Alta Park, if you'll indulge me reading it.
Go ahead.
And you may time me, Councilmember Arnzen. Esteemed members of the Altadena Town Council, Supervisor Catherine Barger and Senator Sasha Perez. This is by Myra Macedo Nolan. She's the Executive Director of the Community Clergy Coalition. On behalf of the Clergy Community Coalition, we commend you and celebrate with you and Altadena residents on the efforts to restore and reopen Loma Alta Park. Although our community is still in turmoil and we are a long way from healing and rebuilding, countless families, primarily those who reside in apartments and small living spaces in Altadena, rely on shared community space for time in nature and community connection, especially in this moment when entire neighborhoods, which make up an enormous portion of our urban forest, are now gone. We need community green space for our shared healing journey. We know that reopening soon comes with safety concerns, and we trust that you will prioritize the overall safety and well-being of residents and volunteers in the process. We look forward to the day when Altadena is brighter than ever, when homes are rebuilt and our community is thriving and stronger than before. Until then, we will celebrate every restored space as a marker on the path of community recovery and as a signal of hope that our community so desperately needs. Thank you for your commitment to our shared bright future.
Thank you, Chair Knapp. Going on to questions. Joel Morrisou Phillips, my apologies for the name, writes, hello. Go ahead.
Councilmember Cipolla. I believe Pat Sutherland also has an entry for the comments. Pat, am I correct?
Yes, you are. I don't know if you have a group of school letters.
Yes, he does.
Include me in that group.
Will do.
For this one.
Proceeding to questions. Joelle Morrisou Phillips. Hello, my family and I have lived in Altadena for the past 9 years, and prior to that, 7 years in Pasadena. We love the area and we do not want to leave. Are there any programs available for previous renters that are now interested in buying or building? Thank you. Joyti Gundar. writes, what can we do if a neighbor hasn't opted in or out of phases 1 or 2? I know they have until 3/31, but this property is investor owned and I'm worried that nothing will happen. I live next door to it. L. Schneider writes, please time me. Hi, friends. First, in regard to the town council's ask for additional disaster recovery funds, I think it's imperative that repopulation of Altadena that the Board of Supervisors seems solely focused on via rebuilding also take into account residents in burned homes who are still struggling to make those homes safe via environmental testing and professional remediation. Hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of residents are still displaced due to safety issues within their own homes, as well as larger unanswered questions about ongoing contamination in the environment during debris removal and rebuilding. Of what use is a splashy reopening of Loma Alta Park if residents aren't here to use it, and if those who are here are afraid of whether it's safe for their children? A disaster fund to address contamination specifically for low-income, underinsured, and uninsured residents of unburned homes, as well as insurance commission representation for those struggling with irresponsible insurers. That can help provide direct financial assistance and legal advice. What would address an immediate need that's been ongoing and unmet since the fire? Businesses and the infrastructure of our community rest on residents' foot traffic and visitors to Altadena, which have severely diminished in the wake of the fire. While residents have been displaced both from burned and unburned homes, displaced residents in standing homes can be repopulated faster if given any semblance of support, and it would boost the local economy and morale immediately. Second, in regards to renters' protections, it would be beneficial if there were a moratorium on evictions for homes found to contain elevated levels of lead, asbestos, or other toxic substances. While those materials do make a home unlivable, they can also typically be remediated in less than 30 days if properly addressed. However, landlords may use positive testing and the overburdened schedules of remediation companies to invoke California Code, Civil Code, CIV 1946.2, Section D, intent to demolish or to substantially remodel the residential real property.
That's time.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Altadena Arts magnet letters that were received.
I'm
This is
sorry,
from
I have to apologize. My hand was up and I didn't know if it was going to get called or not. I have somebody who sent me the Altadena County Council agenda from March 18th, and on it there's a line that says chat feature on the YouTube feed will be enabled to allow viewers to submit public comment, and they want to know if that's going to be honored.
Yes, he's
as
coming
I
up.
continue to read, someone will review that and we'll consolidate them and we'll see what we do with them. So let's
All right,
get
thank
to the
you.
end of the Thanks, Adam. Council member Vervelees. Laura Ratzliff writes, I'm a parent of a 4th and kindergarten grade children at an amazing local school, Altadena Arts. We lost our home in the Eaton fire, and the Altadena Arts community has rallied together to create a safe landing spot for our children at Allendale Elementary. While not perfect, they are all together with a community that is all moving through this tragedy as best as they're able to do. That has been such a mental health support for them. Altadena Arts Magnet has been the center of our experience in Altadena. We ran into friends at every store, park, Little League game, and library event because of AAM. Our relationship with our local schools really turned the very pleasant, lovely place we moved into a place that felt like home. I'm worried that if PUSD rushes a return to the AAM Calaveras campus while cleanup is still ongoing, or while the entire block is a construction zone, that our beloved community will further be fractured. Many will choose to leave our school. Many will never come back. When the fires finally died down and the horrible destruction was apparent, I was so relieved to see that our library and our school were both still standing. Integral parts of my experience of this wonderful community remained. Not my house, not my friends' houses, but at least these two vital community hubs. I'm urging you to let PUSD know the importance of AAM in Altadena and to help us prevent further destruction of this community. From Bridget Batch. I write as both an Altadena resident and parent of the Altadena Arts Magnet student. I am also a PUSD employee who teaches at PHS. I realize that Dr. Blanco, superintendent of Pasadena Unified, will be presenting about Altadena campuses at this evening's meeting. PUSD has not been very transparent about what I, as a parent, think should be one of the most important foundational responsibilities of the school district's student safety. They almost seem in a rush to return students to these horribly contaminated campuses in order to keep their construction schedules going, most likely for financial reasons. Although that seems understandable since no one likes higher taxes, they are running the risk of having to settle extreme lawsuits if children develop elevated lead or other heavy metals in their bloodstream or respiratory problems. Obviously, that would be far more costly, but more importantly, it would be immoral. If a majority of parents do not want to be sending their children into a burn zone until it's less traumatizing and until it's incredibly clear that full remediation of any standing campuses has been done, redoing insulation, etc., then I do not think it's wise for PUSD to return to schools as they think it's possible. Of course, this fire has been horrible in so many ways. Don't allow the trauma to linger decades via health problems for vulnerable citizens, the way it's lingered for 9/11 first responders. If the Altadena Town Council has any say in this matter, please don't permit the return of students to AAM and even other campuses like Jackson and Don Benito until phase 2 cleanup of the area of these schools is complete and until there are no longer debris-filled trucks roaring by the streets next to them and until full remediation is complete. From Carrie Gonzalez. Dear Altadena Town Council, I'm the parent of a TK and second grader at Altadena Arts Magnet. It's not clear the district's timeline for our children to return to the campus that is surrounded by burned buildings. Please join us in asking for our children to remain at Allendale for the 25-26 school year with a return to campus in August 2026. This is important both for the physical and psychological safety of all students. Thank you. Savannah Naman. To the Altadena Town Council, thank you for the opportunity to give public comment on the situation at Altadena Arts Magnet. We have one kindergartner in the French program at AAM. We love the school, the campus, the community we've built in our time at AAM. However, the campus is surrounded by burned homes and is just a block from the burned businesses on Lake Avenue. There is no clarity on how long debris removal will take, how much exposure to toxic dust and debris the children can safely withstand, or when the commercial buildings on Lake Avenue will be cleared. The Army Corps of Engineers has stated that phase 2 debris removal will be ongoing until January, making returning to the Calaveras campus in August of 2025 unacceptably dangerous to the children and staff. Thorough testing has to be done and transparently shared. Finally, there's a traumatic aspect of asking children to spend every day in an area full of burned homes, many of which have belonged to them and their friends. Reopening the Calaveras campus before debris removal and remediation in the area around the schools are done will likely force many of these families to leave AAM or PUSD entirely, putting AAM's future in jeopardy. AAM families have already enrolled to other schools in PUSD or living in other school districts and traveling back to Pasadena to take their kids to Allendale. We've submitted permit requests to Glendale Unified and will leave PUSD. We have every intention to rebuild and reinvest in Altadena, but our plans may change if we're forced to move districts. I'm a civil servant working for LA County's Department of Children and Family Services. It has been heartbreaking and disappointing that I am unable to protect my own children and our classmates from the bureaucracies who are pushing their unsafe agendas. Many parents, including us, have worked tirelessly in advocating for our children and school, all while dealing with our homes and neighborhoods being burned down. How much more can one community deal with before it breaks? We're all so worried about Altadena not being the same again. Well, here's an opportunity. Thank you. From Milissa Pinch. Dear Altadena Town Council, I'm writing to express my concerns regarding the reopening of Altadena Arts Magnet at the Calaveras location in the fall. As a parent of a third grader and transitional kindergarten student at AAM, I'm deeply concerned about the potential health risk highlighted by the LA County Department of Public Health's advisory. The advisory indicates and, quote, increased risk of exposure to hazardous substances from ash, soot, and fire debris before the completion of phase 1 hazardous materials removal and phase 2 fire debris removal within 250 yards of a burned structure or parcel. Given the uncertain timeline of phase 2 completion, I request that we will remain at Allendale or that an alternative location be found for AAM for the 2025-2026 school year. AAM parents are actively engaged with homeowners within 250 yards of the school. And while we're hopeful that cleanup will be completed by the fall, the future remains uncertain. It would be prudent to remain at Allendale until we can ensure the safety of the AAM campus and the surrounding properties. The presence of "enter at your own risk" signs throughout Altadena is concerning. Under what conditions will these signs be removed? We should require equally stringent conditions before declaring the school property surrounded by burned properties on all sides safe and free from hazards. The disconnect between Pasadena Unified School District and LA County Department of Health is troubling. The primary reason provided by the district for the rush to return to AAM is the construction timeline for projects at other PUSD facilities that require the use of Allendale as a swing space. PUSD's lack of backup plan for AAM is forcing families, many of whom have lost their homes in the fire, to devise their own individual backup plans, often outside the district. We appreciate the challenging circumstances facing Superintendent Blanco and the PUSD board. We love our school, our campus on Calaveras, and our community, and we hope that if PUSD can delay the return to AAM campus, our community will remain intact, and PUSD enrollment woes will not continue to compound. Thank you for your service. From Alice Custance Baker. Dear Altadena Town Council, please support the families in your community by asking PUSD to not reopen the Altadena Arts Magnet Altadena Elementary Calaveras Street campus until August of 2026. I have yet to speak with one family who is desperate for the Altadena campus to reopen this year, and many, many who will choose to leave the school if it does. I love the school and want my children to be able to continue to attend their local community school, but I'll have to move them to a new school if they are pushed back to the Altadena campus too soon. So few of us are continuing to live in Altadena right now, either because of total loss or current displacement. So there's not an urgency for us to move the school back into our community so soon. We can't wait to be back when the time we can't wait to be back, and when the time's right, they'll come back. I know that everyone has their own risk threshold, but when it comes to children, no risk to their short or long-term health should be acceptable. The public health advisory says if you can stay away from the burn area, you should. I understand this is an advisory, not an order, but when it comes to our children's health, why would we not take this advice? We also need to know a lot more about the details of the remediation work that has and will be carried out at school campuses, and as of yet, we have not had those details shared with us. My own home, a few blocks south of the school, also survived the fire, and we are having to make many of the same decisions as will need to be made at the school site. And so I'm hyper aware of everything that needs to be considered for safe reopening. Please support the families of our community by asking PUSD to delay reopening of our Calaveras Street campus until August of 2026. Many thanks for your attention and consideration. Molly Dodge. Dear esteemed Altadena Town Council members, the Altadena Arts Magnet Elementary community currently relocated at Allendale Elementary needs your support for a common sense, safety, and stable return to our original campus. As you well know, the AAM campus is centered in the Eden Fire burn zone, immediately surrounded by 75 burned structures, with thousands more in the greater surrounding miles. The Army Corps of Engineers is making progress in Phase 1 and Phase 2, cleanup of the area. Still, Los Angeles County Public Health has made it clear with their advisory and public postings that residents, and especially children, are at elevated long-term health risk being near any of this cleanup activity. It's greatly distressing to our community that Superintendent Blanco has announced plans to move our TK to 5th grade children back to this campus as soon as August of this year. Despite the difficulties of our lives in upheaval, we've been advocating for common sense safety and have been meeting with health experts, environmental scientists, and survivors of other superfires like Lahaina and Paradise. All name serious health risks and strongly caution against returning young children to a burn zone environment. The Altadena arts community understands the desire to use the Allendale campus for projects concerning Measure O renovations, and ideally they would not be delayed. But a safe environment which can reasonably be expected in August of 2026 is the common sense choice given the disaster we faced in our community. Please support us in our effort to have our kids see same faces, different hallways. The formula for best physical health, academic achievement, and social emotional outcomes Our beloved program and families will remain largely intact if they stay at Allendale for one more school year. Our shared traumatic experience has already proven our community's resilience, and now we must keep our kids reasonably safe. Superintendent Blanco and the Pasadena Unified School District Board of Trustees are meeting and making decisions daily. If you stand with parents for the safety of our children, please let it be known, and soon.
Hi.
Mike Rothschild.
Would you like Pat to read hers so you can take a break on it, Connor?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Go ahead, Councilmember Sutherland.
Actually, you already read her, Alice's statement. I didn't realize that I had gotten a copy. She followed instructions and sent it directly to you. So thank you, Alice.
Great.
All right, wet the whistle.
While Connor wets the whistle, I will let the entirety know we're going to be going through the chat that's in YouTube. Milissa, Connor, and myself will leapfrog through that chat. If you asked a question that was already answered, we will skip that one. If you asked a question that was answered within the chat by Connor, we will skip those. There's also a lot of public discussion. Obviously, we won't be including those. We'll only be including public comments and questions, and we will not respond to questions. Go ahead, Connor.
This is my last one.
Thank you.
Mike Rothschild. To the Altadena Town Council, thank you for the opportunity to give public comment on the situation at Altadena Arts Magnet. We have 2 boys at AAM, one currently in 5th and the other in 3rd. We love the school, the campus, the community we've built in our time at AAM. However, the campus is surrounded by burned homes and is also just a block from the burned businesses on Lake Avenue. There's no clarity on how long debris removal will take and how much exposure to toxic dust and debris children can safely withstand, or when the commercial buildings on Lake will be cleared. The Army Corps of Engineers has stated that Phase 2 debris removal will be ongoing until January, making returning to the Calaveras campus in August of 2025 unacceptably dangerous to children and staff. Beyond that, Altadena is an active construction zone, with Lake serving as a main thoroughfare for construction vehicles and numerous large vehicles competing with cars on the narrow streets around the school. Just in visits to my property at Glenrose and Mendocino, I've seen a large spike in traffic and several near accidents. It's extremely hard to get around Altadena right now, and adding 500 more cars every morning to this perpetual traffic jam is unsafe and dangerous. Finally, there's a traumatic aspect of asking children to spend every day in an area full of burned homes, many of which have belonged to them and their friends. Many AAM families have opened enrolled to other schools in PUSD or are living in other school districts and traveling back to Pasadena to take their kids to Allendale. Reopening the Calaveras campus before debris removal and remediation in the area around the schools are done will likely force many of these families to leave AAM or PUSD entirely, putting AAM's future in jeopardy. For all of these reasons, I'm asking the ATC to recommend to the PUSD board that AAM continue to Allendale for the entire 2026 school year, only returning to Calaveras campus in August of 2026 when debris removal is done and the area is substantially safer for children.
Thank you, Connor. Chair, if I may continue.
Please do.
Thank you. As a reminder, Connor, Milissa, and myself will dig through the chat. I would just like to take a moment as they find the first question to thank the public. I personally think this is the most important section of our meetings. While we get a lot of important info out, it's great to hear from the public. I appreciate your patience. The reason we do public comment near the end of the meetings is so that you can hear our presenters and make comment on what you might have heard of earlier in the meeting. With that said, thanks for your patience in us digging through this chat. We may make a mistake. We may miss your question. Please reach out to us and let us know. Know that it wasn't intentional. We will try to only get to the statements and questions that were not answered. With that, Milissa, can you start us off, and Connor and I will dig through and make sure the others.
Great. If you guys could go to the top. Unfortunately, I am starting with Karen after where Connor says, I'll ask, which is towards the bottom.
Thank you. And could I ask, Chair, if you can keep timing us, that would be great.
And these are very short, I believe. So I have one from Karen. It's more of a question, but I do think it needs to be read in. I don't think it was answered. If there is a standing home next to a home where asbestos was discovered, will that homeowner be notified? I think this is a question that comes up often. The debris from standing burn homes are on the property of the standing home. So I think there's still a lot of questions here regarding homes that aren't burnt, but have issues from homes that are burnt.
Thank you, Melissa. I will take the next one. I'm going to run these together. It seems like a number of comments that were meant as one. This is from Pete Daddy. If we as a community don't make our local government accountable, LACO, Fire and Water Department, they will make us accountable. It's our fault we lost our whole city. In the history of communities, you only lose a city without local government. The government model is this too will pass because the citizens will not make us accountable.
From Peter Jeans, how can you expose children to any amount of carcinogen silica dust? You can't do this in a residential area. Move it away from homes. Scout says there are homes directly across from the golf course. They are close. David Horowitz says operating 7 days a week is a violation of LA County rules.
Emily Lundberg.
Go ahead.
Emily Lundberg, what about the businesses around the schools? How will these be prioritized as there is no current plan to clear them?
Emily also sent me a direct public comment. I'll encourage her to send that in directly so we could get that on the record.
Thank you.
Laura Siahan, sorry. Does the January 2026 debris removal date include debris removal from businesses? Sorry, that was answered.
The Grubbs team, we need builders already lined up with 5 designs so that everyone could choose a design and let the builders do the rest. Once our homes were finished, then we got get the keys. As simple as that.
Trying to catch up, Connor. There's a bunch there.
I'm going to read a few from Dasonia Multiverse News. Maybe if you have thousands of complete permit-ready designs and plan sets that meet current code requirements, otherwise you have very few designs. Builders are not necessarily designers. A contractor license does not equal a license to design. Some builders can design, but they can't design 7,000 houses in 3 to 6 months, each with site-specific foundations and site plans. I'm a building designer. It looks like a ad there, so I'm going to skip that. Go ahead.
Just for our edification, Pete Daddy, Dasonia Multiverse, and the Grubbs team do have quite a conversation back and forth regarding the validity of what you just said. So you may want to skip, or at least that. Carrie Brady looks as if she wanted to, she said, due to character limits in the chat, I wasn't able to put my public comment here. I sent it in as an email now, but I understand it's late. So we should look for that public comment.
Councilmember Marona, I will agree. There's a number of them, Pete Daddy and Dasonia. In the interest of fairness, I would point people to the chat to catch up on them because I think we've reached our 2 minutes with both of them. Continuing on.
That's all I have. Connor?
I have many more of them.
Yeah, I have Laura's here.
Great.
It's a little long. Go ahead and time me. I tried to submit this as a comment. Okay, blah, blah, blah. When I bought my Altadena house 10 years ago, our neighborhood elementary school, Altadena Elementary School, was struggling, but over the years, I've watched it grow into a sought-after arts magnet school with a French immersion program, and today I'm proud to send my 3rd grader and kindergartner to such a wonderful school now called Altadena Arts Magnet School. After my house burned down in the Eden fire, I was thankful that the school was temporarily located to the closed down site of Allendale Elementary School in Pasadena, and I could have moved my kids to a neighborhood. Sorry, I gotta move. I'm going blind. Resume time, but I chose to drive 30 minutes each way to keep them at Altadena Arts Magnet. This may change next year, though, since PUSD is planning to send these young children back to the original site in the Calaveras Street in August of this year. While the school is still standing, 75 properties within 250 yards of the school have burned structures. There's public health advisory warnings of these health risks of spending time within 250 yards of uncleared debris. Common sense tells us this certainly should apply to our most vulnerable members of Altadena, our children, many who spend 50 hours a week at the school site, including aftercare, even after the nearby houses are cleared. I'm concerned about the lingering trauma of driving children to school past the devastation of the Lake Avenue Business District. I've surveyed AAM families, and 92% said that they would leave AAM if they return to their original site in August of 2025 and debris removal is not complete. AAM is the elementary school that has the biggest wait list for the 2024-5 school year. It is a school that had increasing enrollment in a district of declining enrollment. But if AAM returns to the original site in August of 2025, it'll be the end of our thriving school. With so many families and teachers who would not return, the school will not make it, and it will leave us without this treasured school to return to after we all were built. To ensure the continued success of AAM, we're asking AAM to stay at Allendale until August of 2026 and full transparency around the remediation happen.
Thank you. Chair, that's the last of them. I will again thank the public. I think lesson learned, last month we were taking Q&A, which is a good usage of the YouTube chat, but the YouTube chat is limited in if we're going virtual again next month, I have ways to correct that. But Connor, do you have more?
Can you just mention the links being available from
Sure,
the chat?
can you mention that?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So I just want the community to know, anyone who's still hanging on, any links that aren't showing up in the chat, we will get those to you through every avenue possible. First and foremost, through our website, socials, we will get them to you. I'm sorry, we didn't know that you weren't receiving them.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Before we move on to census tract reports, I do just want to make the community aware that we are endeavoring to remediate the community center so that we can hold our meetings in public there in person. However, there is a bit of a delay as the overseeing department is transitioning, and there is a lot of remediation that needs to be done. There was a lot of fabric in that building, including the cubicle walls, the carpeting, which was also damaged in the windstorm, and then the rainstorm, which flooded. So it may take us some time. So if we return to this format next month, you'll be made aware via our agenda. Okay. Moving on to census tract reports, 8.1, 4610.
Hi, thank you. I have two things I'd want to bring up. The first is that I've been hearing a few neighbors in 4610 talk about some community meetings where they are projecting survivor's guilt on them and asking them to take their FEMA and gift it to people whose homes have burned down. I'd like to remind our neighbors that you cannot do that. FEMA money is for the people who sign up for FEMA. You can't take money and gift it. This is a federal program. And also, I'd like to follow up on something that Council Member Stuart Gordon brought up. Following extensive discussion on the bylaws and ambiguities within them, as well as
Point of order.
As well as concerns.
Point of order.
She called a point of order, and the point of order is
that the census tract is used for conveying what our neighbors and what is happening within our census tract.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
doing.
believe you are. You're talking about the bylaws.
I said that it was raised by my residents. I have been receiving phone calls and I'm speaking behalf of their concerns, and I have been talking about this for months now. And so I'd like to address the neighbors who have talked to me about their concerns publicly to let them know that I am doing something about it.
Continue.
Thank you. Following extensive discussions on the bylaws and ambiguities within them, as well as concerns raised by my Altadena neighbors regarding the council members' behaviors and actions, I've submitted proposal amendments to the full council to provide clarity and context. A key issue has been interpretation of the executive committee's role. Some members view it as strictly internal, administrative, and procedural, with no hierarchical or governing authority over the council. Others, however, perceive it as broader and more influential powers. Furthermore, there have been instances where the executive committee has used the Altadena Town Council's name without majority of council approval, including matters related to fundraising committee, which is also brought up with other council members in previous discussions. These actions have raised concerns among several council members, including myself, and the role of the purpose of the full council if key decisions are only being made by a select few without representation of Altadena's interests. To address these concerns, my proposed amendments aim to clarify the role and authority of the Executive Committee to ensure that all decision-making remains transparent and inclusive, establish provisions for emergency situations so that our bylaws enable the council to respond efficiently and effectively when urgent matters arise and not to reimagine the purpose of the council, ensure full council representation in key decisions rather than allowing limited group to act without broader input. I encourage my fellow council members to carefully review the proposed changes, ask questions, and provide feedback. Additionally, I urge our council chair to reconsider the appointment of the bylaws committee chair. This will be the second committee assigned to Connor while he remains on the executive committee, raising concerns about the balance of representation and opportunities. Councilmember Vi and myself have been vocal about these issues, and we believe it'd be essential for fairness in committee assignments.
Thank you. And as stated, we will convene a bylaws committee. So that has been addressed. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thanks all. It's 10 o'clock. That's a 3-hour meeting. We are going to tighten this up for the April meeting in terms of logistics and format so that we can get our presenters and the public out earlier, as well as you all, as much as you enjoy being here this late. So thank you all. Thank you. And then can we just get all of the public comment together so that we can route appropriately? Great. Thank you all.